Hello and welcome to the AstroPub, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Captain's Table. What is the Captain's Table? Well, this is a podcast where we talk about Star Citizen. I bring people from all over the Star Citizen universe to talk about Star Citizen development, to sometimes do theory crafting, sometimes do analysis, sometimes do breakdowns. It really depends. We're now the longest and oldest Star Citizen podcast for somewhat contiguous. So I am now an old man. I've always been an old man because I was born with gray hair, but now I am verified old man. But I bring.
Oh, why are you so old?
We're the same age, Tree. Well, actually, you're slightly older than me, but not by much. Been active since 1867. That's right, chat. So. Tree and Naz asked to come on for this week, and I figured, like, just with everything, the way the stars aligned, because they actually asked to come on 2 weeks ago for this week, and when the way that the stars aligned was perfect for these two wonderful folks because of their expertise in what has been going around. So, but before we get to that whole topic, let's introduce these two folks, starting with Senor Naz. Naz, aka the Nova Forge, who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen? Where can they find you?
Hello, everyone. I am the lunatic that decides to do stupid crap and like weird stuff, like a 48-hour stream. So I run the Nova Forge both YouTube and Twitch channels. I stream 4 days a week, I think. Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. Yep. Okay. Do I stream Sunday, right? Yes, Sunday. That's why I forgot.
Sunday
is the new podcast I started up called Star Citizen Content Creators Roundtable. I started it way back, like February or something, and then I didn't do anything because there was a lot of work to set up, and it was really good, and I was just scared of it being not as good as the first one. So it's now a weekly occurrence. We get 3 other content creators on board, and we just basically talk about current events and how we're feeling, depending on what happens that week. So we have, I think, 3 episodes up. So the first one that was in February, and then 2 others. We're currently doing a series, The Road to CitizenCon, and we're 2 episodes down, so we've got 2 to go. And we're basically CitizenCon is kind of the main focus. Other than that, I do live research on Tuesday. So basically, I just like pick a topic and start digging into it, get super distracted on whatever research topic, whether that be looking at the Genesis Starliner or patch notes, whatever it is. And that's also time that I allow, or that I look for like people to come in and like ask questions, and if I don't know it, I'll look it up right there so that they can have the notes and where to find that information right in front of them instead of just pulling it out of the air. On Wednesday is my gameplay days, and then on Friday is going to be a mix between getting through ISCs, SCLs, and also if PTU patches are up. That's why we'll be playing those. Yeah.
Awesome. And again, this is the Nova Forge on YouTube and Twitch, or just YouTube?
On both.
Awesome. And then we've got Mr. Tree0311 himself. Who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen? Where can they find you?
I am Tree0311. Nazeris and I got started with the Pathfinders podcast a year and a half ago now. It was Nazeris' idea, and he was gracious enough to allow me to assume production responsibility because it was something I wanted to learn how to do, how to podcast, how to make content, and Naz has been teaching me how to do the things on the YouTube and the Twitch and content creation, and so it's been a fun learning process. But we've been doing that for a year and a half now. It's now on twitch.tv/Tree0311 and then Tree0311 on YouTube. And we usually do the podcast 3 times a month now. We just have to be flexible with dates because our schedules are weird. But we follow the development of Star Citizen Squadron and Squadron 42 in depth. So the roadmap roundups and the Shiny Tracker reports to go with that, the monthly reports, and then we do deep dives into various aspects of the development, whether it's features, pieces of technology, and we just basically go through and we find all the information about it and present it as objectively as possible with all the citations and the links, and then we provide our subjective interpretations of things in order to try and distill it down, because a lot of it is very tech speak. And then I also do one of the podcasts. I try to do an episode once a month, sometimes once every other month, where I bring on other military members of the community, and it's called Armchair Admirals and Generals, and we talk about various aspects of Star Citizen from our military professional background. And so started off with myself, Night Cobb, and Atira Kell, and been slowly bringing in other members of the Star Citizen community with different military backgrounds, just to talk about things that are related to what they've done in real life. And it's a lot of fun. And everything I do is for charity. So I take no monetization from Twitch or YouTube for myself. I donate it all to stackup.org. So it's it's just a fun hobby for me that goes back to a cause that I believe in. And looking forward to meeting a whole bunch of people at CitizenCon. Can't wait to go. It's going to be the second time I have gone. I went in 2018, 2948, got to meet Paul back then, and looking forward to getting together again soon.
Nice. Yeah, it was fun. It's such an interesting time, CitizenCon. We'll talk a little bit more about it. But I think, Naz, you've not been to a CitizenCon yet, have you?
No, I have not.
Okay. So Tree and I can talk a little bit about it when we get to that topic about like what you actually expect from CitizenCon, because I think a lot of people probably have a weird idea about CitizenCon. But then again, it's been 3 years since the first two-day CitizenCon. So, but yeah, it was fun. It was fun doing that and stuff. So let's get into the topic. So for those of you who don't know, who've already clicked it, by the way, I 100% expect all of the comments to be filled with, "This was clickbait. I can't believe you made me click this." And I'm like, "Ha! You did. You clicked it. You clicked it. I got you. Got you. Now you have to watch the entire thing. That's the rules." You got tricked.
I hope somebody who saw one of my Reddit posts or the accompanying Spectrum posts are here to witness just the exact same thing happening. By the way, I'd like to make a note of the 3 tiers of hair we have.
Yes. You've got the full hair. I've got the receding hair, and he has the egg. For those who don't know, Tree is actually the third brother of the board gamer clan. It's Tree I'm
one of the token bald guys. The Star Citizen content creator community. Yeah.
Who was the other one that we joked about was Board Gamer's brother? I'm completely blanking on who it was. Burks, obviously. Is it Al? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Al's the oldest, then Tree, then Board. That's how this works. So. Diabolus, you're not being called out as bald. You're Chris Roberts. That's we all know this. You're Chris Roberts in secret. All right. So, without being further ado, as we're just talking about this topic, this is a big topic. This is a topic that I think is very important, and I do not want to underestimate. Like I need to really emphasize that both of these folks have done a lot more look into and research into these topics than I have. And I have done a lot of research into this, but not nearly as much as they have. So if there are anybody who are even close to experts into this field that aren't directly working for CIG, these two folks are probably the closest to it. I know there are other content creators out there who've done similar looks, but both of these folks have done the research and have done the extensive. These are the folks who do a 4-hour podcast on server meshing, and that's it. Just 4 hours and just talking about the history of server meshing, where it comes from, and where it's going. So you've done it multiple times.
We did 4 hours on just one.
It was three and some change, give or take. That was it was earlier this year on server meshing and the status at that point. And
normally we do 2 topics.
Yeah. That one was pretty big.
So when I emphasize this, that's the reason why it was just like the stars aligned for this topic. So we're going to talk about Pyro. We're going to talk about server meshing, but because there's been such, and I mean such, a kerfluffle, such a hullabaloo, such a other colorful words of ruckus, yeah, on the fact that CIG has added not only the space stations for near each of the jump points in Stanton, but also the gas clouds for each of the jump points, or like kind of the nebula for the jump points, into 3.21's PTU.
So I can't hear anyone say nebula or nebulous without getting smiley about it.
Why? What's the joke?
Oh, that's our drink.
Oh, it's your joke.
Yeah.
It's your drink.
If one of us says nebulous on the podcast, then we have to drink. And
yeah.
I always run out of beer like an hour in.
Yep. My coffee is completely gone. I'll be starting up a Rockstar when me and Tree go live later.
Apparently there's only one L in Kerfluffle. That's very good. So let's start off with the stations. All right. And I'm going to start with you, Tree, since you're the last person to introduce yourself. What is the reason why CIG is adding these stations? Because it just seems like it just kind of came up out of the blue. Is that true? Did CIG just pull it out of their butt and like just for 321, be like, hey, Star Citizen Con's coming up. Here's stations. Here's the hype. Go buy big ships, or is it more of the part of the plan? Is Tony Z in the background doing Genda fingers, with the glasses, and it's all according to plan? Like what is going on? Why did they add these stations?
This is a classic example of CIG has a plan of, this is what we want Q3 2023 to look like, or whatever that quarter patch is. And they plan 6 months, a year in advance out, and not everything goes according to plan. And so they probably wanted more stuff for the quantum economy in. They wanted to get out the whole C, and they wanted to have the vehicle tractor beams all in. I'm just spitballing about all the things they probably already wanted in for Q3 patch. And some things slipped, some things got come in a little bit earlier, some things a little bit later. And so we're seeing these things filter in. And it was the May monthly report, I want to say, was the one where we got introduced to Seraphim Station, and they said Seraphim Station and jump points. So they're working on it. And everybody's like, what the hell is Seraphim? I was like, well, it's Seraphim Industries. Station. Is that what they?
Oh yeah,
no, remember that.
Seraphim Systems. The Seraphim Systems.
There we go.
Yeah, the
predecessor to Crusader. Yeah. And so I was like, oh, this is definitely going to be the replacement for Olisar. And everybody's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, no, it's clearly a thing. And then they talked about the jump points, and everybody, was like, wait, they're working on jump points. I was like, I think they're probably just adding more infrastructure. I think the biggest thing this tells us is that they do have more plans, for the economy, because each of the jump point stations has a cargo deck and a refinery and has plenty of docking ports, and they're two of the three are farther out. The two of the three are the farthest out system points in the Stanton system. Farther out than Microtech, and so it's if you that image that they put out with the whole sea of the routes that it has. I forget what math this that does, but it basically that adds a lot more locations for the whole sea to utilize in terms of moving cargo around. And so that's a really good thing. I think the other thing to think about is we've been so limited on what can fit in the Stanton system because the servers are so full. And now they just added essentially 3 new, the equivalent of a Lagrange point, but with a much bigger station, a whole lot more infrastructure and spacescaping type points of interest. And so I think we've hit a point where they are able to add more to the Stanton system in terms of points of interest. They've added more in terms of economical things for the whole sea to interact with. And I think that's it. This isn't Pyro is coming sooner, server meshing's coming sooner. No, it's just economy stuff. It's just more points of interest. It's just a sign of, hey, they're getting more and more efficient with the servers in being able to add more stuff. we're still probably at the upper edge of how much they can cram into one server.
Mhm.
But that's all there is to it. But that to me, that's something that's worth getting excited about. And I think the other thing that people are glossing over is the way those gas clouds look, and they're dynamic. You've got it almost looks like if you live in Texas and you're looking off in the distance and you see the lightning strikes up in the clouds way out there, like that's cool. That, as far as I know, that hasn't been in the other ones, and they've been talking about the lightning in the Squadron 42 monthly reports, and I think this is related to that, and now we're probably going to see that getting added into the more dense areas in the near future. So it's signaling three things, but it's not signaling anything that people are getting all wrapped. Yeah, this isn't server meshing, far earlier than we thought. This isn't Pyro far earlier than we thought. But it is a good thing. It's a sign of multiple good things. So,
Nazeris, what do you think? What's your take on this? What are these stations here?
We know exactly what these stations are. Not only did they tell us exactly what's going on with 321, which is basically they merged everything that was going to be a 320X patch into the 321 build because they're preparing for the replication layer split. They didn't say we're preparing it for server meshing, preparing for Pyro. They said exactly preparing for the replication layer split. So this is everything they need and everything that was going to come in with the X patches in 321. And, where did I put it? In the monthly report, starting at the titles, line 67, under the economy team, it says very specifically, the economy team set up shops at 3 jump points stations to provide the whole sea and other cargo ships with additional trade routes. Done. That's it.
As there's a fundamental flaw in your logic.
Oh,
you require
no,
you require people to read.
No.
You require people to read, and no one plays video games to read. I'm here to lead, not to read.
Tell that to like most games.
Most RPG games.
Yeah. Like even in
it's
Minecraft,
bad
like
when Naz and I are the ones having to temper people's hype.
Yeah.
So
it's like, oh gosh, guys, come on! It just said it right here.
Spectrum apparently doesn't want me to get in. Okay, that's fine. I had a post somewhere that I also wanted to reference. It was the post that Jake made before the roadmap roundup, and it was basically exactly what's going. Oh, it was right after 321 went live. He had like hey, here's what's going on. We've merged everything 320X into 321, and there's going to be we know of at least a 320.1 on the roadmap. And I looked back last night. Everything in 321X is already done as far as the roadmap is concerned. So all the bars are done. The only thing we don't have is the replication later update. I don't know if you wanted to show the image I put in Discord on screen. But anyway, what's going to happen is we're going to get a live build of 321.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to get a new PTU, a testing channel of 321, plus the replication layer split. So they can test apples to apples the difference, and they can get the replication layer split back to performance parity with live. And if it takes more than a quarter to do so, then all the stuff in 321X will get merged into the testing channel. And then we'll keep adding to the testing channel to keep the testing channel in parity with live.
So how can they do this? How can they do this without PTU? You're talking about like a testing channel that's separate from the live channel, but it's still
basically
live?
Another PTU environment. Just like they can run ETF and PTU at the same time, it's going to be another channel.
But it's going to be connected to live. It's not going to be PTU.
It will only be connected to live, in which case they keep updating this testing channel with content that's coming out in live.
So will you have to download a brand new patch, do you think? Just like with PTU? Okay.
Yeah. So just like, you get PTU patches every day, you'll have to update your testing channel with anything patch that goes to live with stuff to them. And that's going to continue that trend into the preparation, whatever tech path or updates they need to do to get server meshing. So if there's one or two more tech pushes to the testing channel. Basically, they're going to keep pushing stuff to the testing channel, then collapse it back to live. And then they're going to start another one, let's say, with a server mesh that has replication layer, hybrid service, and a server mesh, but Stanton only. So basically, the whole shebang, but Stanton.
Okay,
And then once they get that done, they can go full server meshing.
So you think they're going to be doing piecemeal, like step by step, going through, rather than being like a full push? It's going to be
they said
this,
that,
and then this, and then this, and then eventually, like they might have a server meshing that's just for Stanton and like a 3.21 patch, and then, but it's not only in a testing environment, and then wait for that. Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah. So they mentioned that in both the postmortem and in the I think in the roundup and on Spectrum right after 321 went live.
Yeah, between the post-mortem and the post from CR and the post from Benoit and the comments within them, it's been pretty illuminating as to defining what their plans are. And I mean, it isn't specific like exactly this patch number on this date or anything, but it gives us a sort of, it's a nebulous roadmap for the next several months of, okay, here are the steps that we're going to take. We don't know how long it's going to take these steps, but these are the steps. And it's not hey, these are the steps that we're going to start taking in a year. This is the first step, and we're already in the 321 patch, and at some point during the 321 life cycle is when they will introduce the replication layers split. And so I think it's the big thing to take away from it is the language that was in the post-mortem and the post from Benoit is that he specifically separates the separation of the separation of the replication layer from crash recovery.
The two separate
in
things.
The way he and that's why I'm inclined to believe that 321 is going to be our CitizenCon patch. We know that they pushed 320 out because they needed the QA resources to get to work on 321 because it's the CitizenCon patch. And then, after the CitizenCon patch is when we're going to start seeing this, what do they call it? The TPPTU, the testing. This testing channel, which will be essentially like a PTU, but specifically to take a version of the current patch, because I forget where it was said, but basically they're going to take the same patch that we're already playing and put it in a separate testing channel that's not live in order to, it's 321.x with separation. And then once they get that done, it'll be 321.x, and then they'll start introducing a 322 is my best guess, because I think the way that he wrote it, the way that he said it, is that the 321 is a major step with the separation and that the lifetime of that patch, and then we'll have a separate lifetime patch that will be 322 that will be the crash recovery. And so that's a lot of people are overreacting and thinking, oh great, it's going to take 3 whole months, 6 whole months or whatever for 321.x and the separation of the replication layer, and then another 3 to 6 whole months for crash. It's like no, you have to throw the whole patch cycle thing, the quarterly patch cycle, out the window now, because this is going to the way that these technologies are built and the way that they are just, this is a service and this is a service. It isn't a monumental patch testing cycle like it was for 318 and PES. These are much smaller sub services as part of a greater thing that they just need to test out in order to make sure that they are more stable before they implement server meshing. Kind of like if you remember from the I forget which letter from the chairman, he talked about how monumental 318 and PES was, and how much more complicated PES is than server meshing. PES was 12 new services, and they basically implemented almost all of them in 318 at once.
Yeah,
we had a lot of problems,
and
so what they're doing,
they only had the 12 months to get all those services built.
Yeah, in a very short
they've been
period
working
of time.
on server meshing since 2017.
Yeah. And so server meshing is only 4 new services. And here we are. And they're implementing those services incrementally and testing them incrementally before going live, instead of just going live with 4.0 and just saying, fucking send it, man.
Yeah.
Full send. They're implementing incrementally over a period of weeks to months before full send with 4.0. And so 4.0, in theory, 4.0 should be a much smoother integration than 3.18, because it isn't just a giant dump of all this brand new technology and services. We're going to prove out the separation of the replication layer. We're going to prove out the crash recovery, and I forget I'm brain farting right now about what the other 1 or 2 services would be, but that's it. And then, so I think that there's still a good chance that we might see an Evo of the what they call it. I have the image up. Hold on. Of the server mesh tech preview. I think there's a good chance we might see an Evo of that, just so they can get the data over the holiday break. A skeleton crew from the networking team, just to monitor this Evo patch to, that way, they've got 2 weeks of data that they can get started with in January. But I think that Evo patch could just be the tech preview of, this is what happens when we split Stanton in half between two servers in a mesh, 2 server nodes. And that's it.
Right, because they got to get the whole A-player touched server meshing to fulfill the promise of Chris Roberts.
That's a good question. I've heard that before. When did Chris Roberts promise to get server meshing? Or
second letter?
Was it the second letter?
The letter from the chairman in December of last year, that almost verbatim, it said that to have a version of server meshing or 4.0, I think it was, in players' hands, which is very different from the one in May, which said
by the
3.18 and PES released to live by the end of the year. It was like, oh, they never learn. I'm like, well, 6 months later, they showed a very different language in managing expectations, setting expectations appropriately. Do I still think that I think there's the chances of us hitting that are less now than they were then.
Hold up. We're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that point here soon.
Oh, sorry.
So, because that's the part where I really want to talk about in depth, because there's a lot of people in chat who are already talking about things like Pyro as a separate instance, and why is that possible? Right? You just go in, so you just jump into to Stanton rather than, or Pyro. Just choose your login area as Pyro rather than Stanton, and how is that different from like, why is, like, because people are still talking about that one time, and that NISE, it was one sentence from January that we haven't heard any update from since then.
Went back and flip and watched it.
Thank you for watching it, so that you have the exact quote, so you can kind of go over it. But before we get to that, I do want to know a little bit about about kind of wrap it up on 321, and then kind of talk about Star Citizen Con. So, Naz, I want your thoughts on this. The last thing, is 321 a major deal? Is it a big deal? Should players be super hyped about it?
No,
because a lot of people have been losing their minds about like these new the jump point and all these sorts of things.
It's like getting excited from turning a key before you open the door. Like, we're there, but we're not there yet. Like, there's good content in it. Like, it's a really cool patch. We get the Orison platform missions back.
Mm-hmm.
That will, like, one of my favorite missions. Like, I'm super hyped about that. And, like, Crusader Outposts with more platforms all over the planet. Not that I've been there, because PTU keeps crashing. Like, it's a good content patch. But it is by no means the patch before 4.0. It is not indicative of colossal changes. Terra's not done. Magnus is not done. They're not hiding an entire 100 planets or 100 star systems from us. It's just stations.
Okay. Tree, is the hype warranted? Does the hype rise, brother?
Oh gosh. And that's, I mean, it depends on what you're hyped about. Like, I think I have, I have like sympathetic hype, because I have so many friends in the Star Citizen community who have been super excited for their whole C, and I'm hyped for you to have your whole C in 320, and I'm hyped for you to have more locations to take it to in 321 with farther jumps. I mean, I want to say it's a full 2 AU jump from what was it, Art Core, or no, sorry, from Crusader to the Magnus jump point. And if you go from the Magnus jump point all the way to the Terra jump point, it's like 8. That's the farthest we've ever gone in the game. I think that's super cool. And so if you're hyped for the right things, I think that the hype is totally warranted. The Stanton system has grown significantly. We have more points of interest. We have more to do with the whole sea. There are definitely things to be hyped about, and that Xylo was very quick to point out in the, I forget which post it was, but there is more coming to 321 that they haven't announced yet. There's going to be patch watch stuff. There's a bunch of other different things coming down, and so the patch isn't done. Just what we have in there is, it's stuff to be hyped about. Now, if you're hyped because you think that there's more hidden stuff, no, I think that the hype is totally unwarranted, and that tells me that you need to watch more Paul and watch more Pathfinders, and we will, help you set your expectations appropriately about what's coming, with 321 in the near future. But
people
if you're
shit
hyped
on,
for the right reasons, yeah.
And I think people shit on people like Salty Mike and Burks a lot, but like every so often it's a good idea just to watch what they talk about, because even if you're like really, really optimistic about the project, like watch what they talk about, because they also are optimistic about the project. They just have been burned too many times with their own optimization, so they're a little bit more pessimistic. So it's nice to kind of like watch them and reset your dial to be like, oh, I get it.
I think the reaction to what Mike and Burks have said about it is unwarranted. I think that the oh gosh, what's the word? There's a lot of guttural reaction. People are taking it personal, and it's like, no, don't take it personal. It's not meant to be personal. But at the same time, I think they both could have said what they meant a little bit softer. It came off as a little bit harsh, but at the same time, like, don't take it personal. It's just two different extremes, and we literally have 3 people who are right in the middle right now, which it doesn't always work out that way, because we're all like, no, this is a good thing, but it isn't what you think it is. Like, y'all calm down. Y'all calm down.
There are a few people that like this game as much as Salty Mike does. And he was actually on Tomato's podcast, and I figured out why he comes across so often as pessimistic. And he said it very bluntly. He doesn't care for the development of Star Citizen. He's here for the flipping game Star Citizen. Yeah. And that is a very, makes sense. We're 10 plus years into development. Sure, what they're doing will take 10 plus years of development. It should take 10 plus years of development. If this was EA, we'd have Starfield.
If this was EA, the Star Citizen would have already been anthemed. So
so EA made Freelancer, so
Microsoft did.
They bought Anvil from Microsoft. It's now owned by EA.
They may have, but Microsoft was a freelancer project.
It was originally published by Microsoft. Yeah.
Okay, my bad. But yeah, he's ready for the game to be done. So anytime he talks about development, he's always pessimistic about it. But when he talks about the game and playing Star Citizen, he loves this game. He loves it so much.
Yeah. He's the one person I would go to if at a moment's notice, if I wanted to know something about salvage or mining. He would know right off the top of his head. So, but
and I love Mike, and I really appreciate his takes, and I especially love watching him when he goes on to other people's shows, because I do think as a community drags him in a different direction than he would normally go. But Burks said, y'all need to calm down. It's 2016 all over again. And it's like, we may get Pyro next year. We may get 4.0 next year. And I'm like, okay, there's the happy medium is somewhere in between. Pyro's coming at CitizenCon and Pyro isn't coming next year.
Yeah.
Pyro it's going to come next year. 4.0 is going to come next year. I don't think that there's any reasonable possibility that it doesn't come, but I don't think there's a chance in hell we're going to see it at CitizenCon or even in the next couple months, before the end of the year.
Well, speaking of CitizenCon, and by the way, this was me to kind of say that like y'all should watch more Mike. I can tell when you people make comments, when y'all make comments about like other content creators in my chat or in my comments, I can tell you don't watch Salty Mike, which is like, Mike is like, you don't watch him. You just look at his title and get mad, which is,
He's
exactly
really good at making really pessimistic, bad titles.
Which is great. It's clicks. I mean, same reason why a lot of people click this one, because of the title I made. I'm getting better at it, and I'm learning to just. I've learned how I stopped learning. How I stopped worrying and learned to love clickbait. The title is just Pyro Soon TM. That's all the title is. So
right. So I made basically the exact same title on Reddit.
Mm-hmm.
It was Pyro in 2 weeks with full exclamation points. And it was specifically to filter out people who knew better.
Yeah.
And to catch the people that were confused or like hyped for it or whatever. If they were caught in that, like, we're getting Pyro, this is the Pyro patch. And mostly it was like, oh, obviously that's not happening, or what do you mean? But there was at least 2 people that were like, how dare you clickbait on this sacred ground we call
the
Reddit?
Sacred ground of Reddit.
It's like, I'm sorry. This is the internet. It's and like eventually I did like get them to chill out. It took me like I was up to like 4 o'clock in the morning. Just
Stop arguing on the internet, Naz. That's just
Never.
It never works. But to move on to talk a little bit about CitizenCon. Let's talk a little bit about CitizenCon before we get to the main topic, because I do want to also kind of talk a little bit about what are expectations at CitizenCon, because there are people who are like, expect Chris Roberts to walk in with a microphone and go, Pyro is out, and then drop the mic and walk out. Like, or just to see like Mark Hamill walk up in full costume as old man and be like, Squadron 42 is releasing in 15 minutes, and then just walk out of the store. So like, what should we be expecting from CitizenCon? And Tree, I'll let you start off with this, because you actually have been to a CitizenCon like I have, so you kind of have a little bit more of that personal experience with it, as well as just having watched it for so many years like the rest of us.
If I don't get to hug Henry Cavill and bring home that shirt to my wife at CitizenCon, it's a fail on CIG's part. And scam, never again. Literally that's what she wants. She's like, if he's there, you have to shake his hand and then let me smell your hand. You can't wash it.
You can't wash it for the entire trip.
Yeah. No, they've been dropping lots of hints about the types of panels that they're going to have at CitizenCon. Like almost verbatim, we're going to see a demo of ray tracing using Vulkan. So that's something to get excited about.
A very specific type of ray tracing. Like it's very specific.
Mm-hmm.
It's not reflections. Yeah. It's not self-shadowing. It's specifically global illumination, which is, in my opinion, the biggest part of ray tracing. It's getting the corners and the lighting to bounce correctly. Yeah.
So it'll look a lot more like,
if there's any
like Starfield, because Starfield has that added to it, but not in the kind of like crowbar it into the creation engine sort of way, rather than in the like natural way that CIG wants to do it.
So like you had games ever since wireframe graphics try and get realistic lighting, and they've gotten flipping good at it to make this almost realistic lighting. And then ray tracing, like NVIDIA like forces ray tracing on the entire game industry, and it's like, oh yeah, no, this is actually better. So like I wish I was born 50 years in the future when we had computers that could just fully ray trace an entire scene, reflections, global illumination, self shadows, everything. But unfortunately, we'll just have to settle for 1 or 2 at a time because computers just cannot handle it right now.
Chad is correcting me that they don't have RTX. They don't, but they do have global illumination, which was the thing they kept talking about. So, which is like where you have a single point of illumination rather than having a bunch of light sources that light everything nice and pretty. So you have everything that's more natural to cast shadows properly. It's the reason why the shadows get super long in random times in Starfield. So yeah.
Yeah, and if there's any game that will benefit from full ray tracing global illumination, it's Star Citizen and Star Citizen environments. But so that's just one example. There's going to be a lot of panels, and I know that they have talked about, well, hey, we put it over 2 days because we don't want people to feel rushed. It's still 2 days. The last in-person CitizenCon was like 8-9 hours. And they're going to it's not taking 8-9 hours worth of content and spreading it over 16. It's taking 10-12 hours worth of content and spreading it over 16. So there's going to be, it's a big CitizenCon. There's going to be a lot of different panels, but I'm fully expecting day 2 to be, Squadron 42 focused. And I fully expect us to get to see big panels and demos of a lot of the things that they've been building in Squadron 42. We got that a bunch of stuff shown off last year, and not a bunch, but a number of things that they're working on for Squadron last year that will get ported over. This year is, I think there's going to be they've been talking a lot about quality of life, and it was in that CR post very recently, where he talked about we're at an inflection point with Squadron, where a lot of these things that they've been working on for 2-3 years are getting, they're getting to that point where they can start being brought into the main branch, not just the Squadron 42 branch, because there's 2 branches of development. There's the Star Citizen branch and the Squadron 42 branch. And right now, as things get finished in Squadron 42, and basically release ready and done, feature complete, then those things can get brought over. And everybody's like, whoa, we've been waiting and nothing's gotten brought over. Well, some things have gotten brought over, but the reason they haven't gotten brought over is because they're not done. They're not feature, the things, once something gets feature complete for Squadron, then they start bringing it over. Well, we're at this point where feature complete
you used the incorrect term. The correct, like, preferred term for CIG is post alpha. Once it reaches the post alpha stage, which is before pre-beta.
I'm so happy I caught that. I don't know if I was at work when I caught whatever video that was. I don't know if it was one of the ones on Spotify. It was on YouTube, but just like, what on earth is post alpha?
That was last 2 weeks ago.
The second cousin twice removed point of development.
If you go down the road around the big rock, you'll see this tree with a little kink in it. If you go left there'll be a river, but in the summer it dries up, so there'll be like a little wooden slats on the road.
At Parky, I see you, and oh god. No, but if you listen to Paul or us read the Squadron 42 monthly reports, you know what those features are. Those are the things I'm expecting to see at day 2 at CitizenCon. The MFDs, the HUDs, the new visor, a lot more of the scanning and ping. If we don't see a in-game version, full, not just they showed us the scanning bit of the Idris. If we don't see a full in-game version of the mini map / star map / interior map working in engine, I'm gonna riot and fling poop. Because that's one of my.
He will.
Yeah,
do it.
This is one of the things, and we've seen other things. This is the biggest quality of life thing, in my opinion, that we need in Star Citizen, that they haven't given us any sort of hint of visually, hardly at all. But have just been talking about it ad nauseum in the monthly reports. And I'm like, I'm done. I'm at Salty Mike point with that. I'm like, I'm done hearing about it. I need to see it because they have been, the UI team's been working super hard on that stuff. But I need to see it. And so, but that's what I'm expecting for CitizenCon is I think we're going to get a demo, where I know a lot of people, Paul, you've gone on about this, and I know a lot of people kind of shit on the gameplay demos, but they're going to gameplay demo Bounty Hunter, and
I think so. Yeah,
they're
that's
gonna
a good point.
they're gonna gameplay demo Bounty Hunter. You going into Pyro, tracking someone down, incapacitating them, and bringing them back, and at some point, with things in between, and that's going to be the gameplay demo. And then they're going to give us a panel on ray tracing, global illumination. They're going to give us a panel on some of the tech stuff. I firmly believe we're going to get another update on Rastar and or the procedural locations tool, because backs away from Tree. Sorry, chat. There's a lot of big tech initiatives. But yeah, those are the big sort of things that I'm very much expecting. And we're gonna get a gameplay trailer of Squadron 42, like the that Star Wars Outlaws trailer that we got that was like 10 12 minutes or something like that, give or take. I forget how long it was. That we're gonna get that, but for Squadron with the release date. Oh, last thing. Remember last year when they showed us the concept art of the underground facilities? We're gonna get the same thing, but asteroid facilities.
Okay.
And I am beyond hyped for asteroid facilities. Beyond hyped.
Naz, your thoughts. What are we gonna see at CitizenCon?
Devs, CIG devs. So there are things like I want to see and things that I have pretty good idea we're gonna see. Stuff that's in the want to see, but I have no good basis for it. I want to see Sandy on the stage again. She just loves the community so much. We're gonna get, obviously Chris is gonna do some sort of keynote somewhere. Either that's just gonna be a presentation. Hopefully he doesn't do another roadmap presentation like 2017.
Hopefully he doesn't come out and go, "What is release?" again.
I don't know. No.
Third time's a charm. 2018, 2019. Yeah.
I think we're going to see. I think we might actually get underground facilities if we do a demo. If we do a gameplay demo, we might get an underground facility in it. There is a lot. So they have two paths they can go for a gameplay demo. What we are getting in 4.0 or what they want Star Citizen to be. What is Star Citizen? And a lot of people, like, the gameplay demo is like the most polarizing like CitizenCon event of ever. People are like, no, don't do it. It's all hopes and dreams. Nothing ever comes over. Blah, 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 blah. I strongly disagree with...
I will mention that Space Mano did a fantastic video looking at all of that, looking at every single thing that they've talked about at CitizenCon and what has been brought over and what hasn't yet. So yeah, it's good to look at that. But yeah, go ahead.
Yes,
go check it out.
But like the Carrick and Pisces are in game. That was in a CitizenCon demo. So like, screw you.
Yeah.
I think it's really good because we're in the trenches. We're seeing what we have. We're reading. We're seeing the ISCs of what we're about to get. But CitizenCon is that moment to pull back a bit and say, this is our goal, guys. This is what we're trying to do. This is why we're all here. That big, like, millions of quanta, that, like, everyone's running their own life kind of thing. I think a good gameplay demo with that would be a gameplay demo where we keep switching people. Like, you see a cargo hauler move in, and then he gets pirated, and then there's a bounty hunter going to get that pirate, and you keep switching perspectives until you see the kind of like the scope of Star Citizen. And I think it will include a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about throughout the year. I think obviously the star map is going to be there because they've been like teasing it for like how long now? 2 years now?
2 years, just about.
At least.
And they keep like, oh, it's looking good. So like, why? So that's definitely one. I think Squadron's obviously going to play a part. It is very much up to. There goes that entire tab. it's up to where Squadron is to be what they're going to show. Thanks. Okay, there it is. So either they're going to say that here's another trailer, here's another gameplay, here's features, like we've seen the past 3 years, or they're going to say, or the composer's going. So I imagine he might have something to do with it.
Yeah, I mean that's.
I imagine.
I'm a tinfoil hat and being like, why would Jeff Sinelli, the composer for only Squadron 42, show up at a Citizen Con? You know,
and I
coincidence? I think not. You know,
and I think it's gonna be a lot more like, it's one of an actor. If the composer is what they got, then the composer is what they got. Coming on stage and talking about Squadron 42. I think, yeah, I think that we're finally in that moment where we start switching to the media phase of Squadron. And by the media phase, I mean like where we start talking about Squadron, we start getting the briefing rooms regularly, we start the, not necessarily countdown, but the road to Squadron 42.
Yeah,
and
when Squadron 42 stops becoming it's in development with secret, we can't talk to you about it excuses, and when you can start blaming marketing for mistakes for Squadron 42 because they haven't talked about it at all now. So
yeah,
oh.
And what?
Go ahead. I was just gonna say, everyone be hyped for Maelstrom.
Oh yeah,
they've all but said they're gonna show us Maelstrom. If somehow we don't see Maelstrom in action, I will be insanely surprised. But
yeah, we'll definitely see a ship panel at some kind. There's at least 2 straight flyable ships that are coming out with. We got Fighter Flight coming in. I really want to see the talking around Fighter Flight, not necessarily the event itself. Because I'm interested, because Star Citizen and esports.
I hate you too, Ness. I hate you too.
What?
You don't know the story?
No.
I'm in fight or flight. That's how I'm able to go to Citizen Con. I'm going to be in fight or flight.
I'm so sorry.
Yes.
So
ouch!
I will be there. We will be watching it. Okay. Like I will. So out of the 3 people here, I'm the only one who's stuck at home.
Yes.
So I will be live streaming the entire thing on my channel, the Noah Forge, both on YouTube and Twitch till Twitch bans me. And I will be doing a 48-hour stream, so we'll be there the entire time. We will try and keep the talking to a minimum when the devs are talking. We'll probably talk over Paul and his stuff. But I want to see this new form of esports and what Star Citizen is trying to do about it. Because like traditional esports are an hour, half an hour to an hour of pre-game setup in menus, in lobbies, making sure the correct people have spectator, making sure the players are ready to go, vetoing maps, getting their loadout set up. In Star Citizen, it is you are in existence in the world, and Atmo runs live security for these events to make sure people who want to grief the event just stay out. They have to do yes.
I will take your hopes and kind of crush them a little bit. It's not going to be in the universe.
I know they're for Citizen Con, because CIG wants it to be nice and pretty. They added a game mode for you guys. But traditionally, like from when Atmos sets up their actual events, not Citizen Con events, it is in the universe.
Mm-hmm.
Hurston Hurtlocker, Fighter Flight, they're all in universe. And I want to see how CIG is talking about this kind of new paradigm of esports. And I think, well, no, I have nothing. I just want to see what they think about it. I want to see what they're talking about.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to step away for a few moments, but I'm going to set this up. I'm going to start with you, Naz, since I'm ready for your epic rant on this one, because
hold on.
We've kind of
turn the volume down.
We've been circling around this a lot. We've kind of answered it a little bit, but with everything that's going on, plus the letter, are we going to see 4.0 before the end of the year? And don't just give me a yes or no. Explain when you actually. When do you think?
No.
When do you think? Is it? Are we going to actually see like a PTU patch, maybe an Evocati, or what is the status? Like where do you see 4.0 in terms of the near future? Is this one of those things that's like 2026? We're not going to see it until then, or is this something that's like more sooner? Give us the lowdown, and I'll step out for just a few moments. And also, what do you think about people who are don't do that. Don't swear at the people who think it's coming out at the end of the year, because
no. So no, I don't think we're getting 4.0 in the next 6 months. Easily 6 months. So I did on last night's stream. I went and made myself a graphic for myself on what I think is going to happen. We know we're not getting 4.0 before the end of the year because of the prerequisites that we just said earlier in the show about 320, 321, and the replication layer split and the testing phase. They want to make sure that 318 doesn't happen again. So they need 4.0, and they need server meshing before 4.0. So server meshing is going to be tested thoroughly before 4.0. And we're going to get a patch. I assume we're going to get a patch before 4.0 with server meshing. A very cut down version of server meshing that's only Stanton. Whether that is only in the testing channel or not, that's remained to be seen. The thing that people keep latching on to about Pyro and server meshing are two different things, and Pyro's coming first, is a line and a post-it note in a part 1 of a possibly 5-part series. So this post-it note was how to transition servers. And it was, where do we put the break between jump points and star systems? And there was 2 options. We have a Stanton server and a Pyro server, and the jump point just crosses the boundary between the 2. Or we have 3 servers, and the jump point is its own server. So we transition into the jump point, and you and all your stuff, and then into the Pyro system. That is still server meshing.
Extreme G Racing just raided with 46.
Hey, thank you for that raid. Welcome, everyone, Extreme G. Welcome to the discussion. We're getting to the good part right here. So, Naz, have you talked about the theory? Because this is another thing that's come up a lot, which is that the CIG can just add Pyro as a login spot and then just drop it in. So like we'll have Pyro, we just won't have server meshing or jump points or anything like that. It just like as a login screen. It's 2 separate instances running at the same time.
I can't find them, and I don't know why I can't find them. They have said several times they aren't doing that. That's not happening. That's not what they want to do. There's no benefit to building Star Citizen doing it that way. We had that. That was the social module, hangar module, and Marine Commander. That was the old way. That they're done with that. They're finished with that kind of theory crap. Theory. What's the word? Ethos.
Okay.
They're done with that kind of ethos. They don't need to do that again just to get Pyro. Pyro is not a, hey, we're developing Pyro. We're trying to, the game is Pyro. Pyro is Star Citizen. That's not it at all. Pyro is trying to get to Star Citizen. It is a step on the journey. And so if they just put in Pyro as a loading spot, as a home location, just to get to Pyro, nothing works. Nothing is pushed forward. And so there was a line in the video that everyone loves to quote that Pyro and server meshing are split, and so they will push out Pyro because it's done and all this other fun stuff. So they said very specifically, we can actually assume Pyro's delivery. No, it was right before that. Meshing stuff so that we can get to the point, so we can actually assure Pyro's delivery. And whilst we worry about actual server meshing delivery, yeah, those are now, from our perspective, 2 different problems. And people was like, oh, so server meshing does not mean Pyro. Pyro does not mean server meshing. And we can just, whenever they're done with Pyro, they can just add it. They added 33 gigs to the game with 3 stations.
To be fair, it didn't increase the size of the actual file. It just increased the download file to 33. So like the actual download file went up in size, and then they reduced it after that.
Sure. So, if we want to have every system taking that much data, we're getting to like what was the game that like was 5 disks? It was like Call of Duty or something. And that's just infeasible. You just can't do that with what they're trying to do. And what they meant, and they said this specifically with jump points as well, that jump points and server meshing are also 2 separate deliverables or 2 separate problems, is what they said. And what they actually meant was we're going to change how we're going about looking at these problems. It is, we need to transfer data over servers. The jump point is a gameplay and art thing. That is over there. So we can get the data transfer. We're going to work on server meshing, and then we can make it look pretty. For Pyro and server meshing, they're working on Pyro, we're working on server meshing, and when those two are at a completable level, they will merge the two and push them out. They need to work on both independently to get them up to the level where they can ensure Pyro's delivery. That's what they meant, not that they will add in Pyro or server meshing independently. They've said, I forget where it was because I keep trying to find it. It's taking me hours of not being able to find it. They specifically said that server meshing, Pyro, and 4.0 are still all the same thing.
I believe that
and
was.
They said that's.
I think that was a mention by Xylo at some point. That because the question, I think because I know what you're talking about. If I remember correctly,
I've got the link saved somewhere. I know exactly what you're talking about. They specifically said yes, they could do that, but they have chosen not to.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's all there is to it. They if they were going to do that and do what people have talked about, they would have done that years ago with the lesser version of Pyro than we have now, the very simplified version. And they chose not to. They chose to wait until they got server meshing, static server meshing done and implemented and they're just sticking to their guns, which is fine. It's not a thing. But people think that, oh, well, they could have changed their minds. I'm like, really? When we're this close to the finish line, they're going to change their minds? No, they're not going to change their mind.
Yeah.
That would delay getting to the finish line when we're this close now, 90%, whatever,
Yeah, they have to rework it again. Like they'd have to put it in, get this entire new front end working, and then when Pyro or when server meshing would be done, then they'd have to rework the entire system again to get it to actually function and remove the new front end they just built.
So how close do you think we are, Naz, to 4.0? Like, I'm sure you've already gone over the fact that no, it's probably not going to be here before the end of the year. Like,
for sure no. I think because as far as I remember, they don't like doing any big things before the end of the year. Like we have CitizenCon with all the news and a lot of the content we're going to get. And then we have the end of year, which is, the finishing touches, maybe some like gameplay stuff, but no like, again, 318. No big like monumental explosions. So it's just kind of like the finishing content that they have ready for us. And then the 2-month break. Or 2-week break, not 2-month break. So I have
all
on my
of
prediction.
CIG in chat just got very excited about having 2 months vacation.
Honestly,
Naz CIG just gave you all 2 months vacation. CIG members.
Do it.
So
they deserve every second of it. Even now, like please, after CitizenCon, take all the time you need. Like I know that like as much as I think there was even I forget where they were talking about. Oh, it was an XCIG dev. So grain of salt, everyone. Talk about that like the managers like don't want crunch, but like people crunch themselves because they're passionate about the project.
I mean that's not something that like I'd have to even see in XCIG dev. I see it. I see active CIG developers do that to themselves.
I mean, especially around CitizenCon.
Yeah.
And I'm like they could take 2 months at the beginning of the year. Absolutely. Go ahead. Like you guys are just all stars and you deserve all the time you need. So I have a 3.22 as the end of year patch, and that is basically that is added to that is the patch that we condense the replication split back to.
3.22.
Yeah, 3.22.
Okay.
And that's the replication layer split patch. So we get 3.21 at CitizenCon, and they start up this testing area. And somewhere in IAE, we get a 3.21.1, and that is added to live and then added to the testing channel, so they keep on parity. And then once they are done and satisfied with the testing, the RL split testing, they condense it and put out 3.22.
Okay.
We then take our 2 weeks off, and we have a reasonable lacking first quarter, as always, because it's kind of like rescheduling everything. Everyone's not really up to working status yet.
People are still taking their vacation time off because they want to extend it 2 weeks to like a month.
Yep. And so we get a 3.2. It's supposed to be 3.23. I have it marked wrong as 3.24. We have a 3.23. And I think somewhere between the start of the year and 3.23, we get the server meshing testing channel.
Okay.
And that goes at least until Q2, so 3.24, or until Q3, and whichever one that happens to be, 3.24 or 3.25, we will not know until they are dropping that patch whether it's called 3.23 or 4.0.
Okay.
Because they've already said, like, we're not going to call it 4.0 on the roadmap, guys. You're just going to have to, like, figure it out.
Okay. So it's just like, you think at some point they'll be like, all right, this is it. I'm just, the vibes are telling me this is 4.0. So we're just going to change this from 3.23. Because that's actually what they did with 3.0. 3.0 was originally 2.
Heck, that's what they just did with 2.1. Yeah. 3.21. So, like, yeah, it'll be something very similar.
Okay.
And because they're testing server meshing independently, we will get less of a neon sign that incoming 4.0, because we will have all this like testing and mesh testing over the last 6 to 9 months, where they said, okay, now we're done. By the way, the next patch is Pyro, and here's all like the patch notes, just the mile-long patch notes. Because you also have like resource management, underground facilities, building interiors.
Tree.
Depending on when they come. Sorry, go ahead.
I say, Tree, your thoughts. When is 4.0 coming out at the end of the year, and like when do you think it's actually kind of reasonable to expect it?
Absolute best case scenario, 4. That'll be. I don't think it'll be 4.0. I think it'll be the server meshing tech preview where they split Santin in half and give it to Evo. And be like, hey, break this, guys. Find all find the fault points of the 2 week break. Report back after New Year's, and that's it. I think that's the best case scenario. I think what CIG, if I'm looking to my crystal ball based off of what Benoit said and CR said, the language was pretty clear to me that Benoit is separating the separation of the replication layer as one milestone and crash recovery as another milestone. Hey, go read the posts. I don't think you can read the posts and be like, oh yeah, he definitely wants to lump them into the same patch. Because the way he spoke about them in the post-mortem and his post afterwards, I think it's two separate things. And everybody's like, no, there won't be a 322. They don't have time for that. Take everything you know about patch cycles out. It's just we're going to take what would be a .x patch and make it a whole numbered patch because we're adding in a piece of tech. That's it. There'll be a couple more new, little feature things, maybe a ship or two. It'll be the content-wise, it'll be the equivalent of a .x patch, but it'll be a whole numbered patch because they'll have been during that cycle. They'll be here's 322, and with it is we're testing crash recovery in December.
What is crash recovery, by the way, so people know, because that's one of those things that like we've all mentioned it, but like a lot of people are like probably watching this going, what the heck are you talking about with crash recovery?
So the replication layer is a prerequisite for server meshing. It's also a prerequisite for crash recovery. So that way you can be in a server and the server can die. It can literally die, but you stay connected to to the mesh, to the greater whole, and the other server that was in that mesh, takes over simulation for you until they spin up a new server, and you then reconnect to that one, and it picks back up. So the one you're on died, and the way they've described it, you notice like a little hitch, for a few seconds in delay while you're getting you remain connected. And they hand over authority of you and everything around you to the server, to the other server in the mesh, while they spin up a new one from the seed service, which they talked about in the recent monthly report. And that will allow you to reconnect back up to the server. They'll redivide responsibility for things in the area that you're around, and then no more 30K. So instead of 30K, there might be a couple second hang up as you're quantuming around or running around or whatever. And then, instead of being on a 30 FPS server, now you're on a 15 FPS server until another one spins back up and you go back to 30 FPS. That's like very basic what crash recovery is, but they want to have crash recovery in before server meshing. So that way, if you're on one server that's simulating Stanton and, and a 2-server mesh, and that one crashes, the other one will pick up the slack until they spin up a new server in that mesh. So they're, and it gets more and more redundant as more and more server nodes get added to the mesh. More and more redundancy in terms of what server is going to pick up authority for you and say your ship, when, the server that you are on takes a shit. So it's basically, it's the death of 30Ks.
Okay,
and
I was gonna say
of crashing to. Yeah.
So like when you come back, or like death 30K, so like you won't, like, you can crash out, and if you crash out and kind of like crash a desktop, when you come back, you'll be in the same space you were when you crashed out, because if CIG servers light on fire and your game computer decides to spit out coolant and commit seppuku at the exact same time, when you come back in, it will no longer be, hey, you're back at this station. It's like you dropped out in the middle of Pyro, you're still in the middle of Pyro, kind of thing, right?
And Captain Theron, I see your comment in chat. All the replication layer is, all that is a service that is like the person at your office that forwards emails out to whoever needs to get them. That's all that it does. It shares entity state changes with people, with the client and the servers and the entity graph. That's all it is a forwarding service. It's the mail sorting guy that's sending out the entity state changes. So that's why you need to have separation of the replication layer from the server, so that way you can still be connected to the replication layer while you're getting transferred to a different server, because that replication layer is going to still update changes to you. You are an entity and your ship is an entity, and to the whoever's going to be taking over entity responsibility for you, which is a different server. It's complicated. I'm trying to break it down, but go look at I put the link in chat earlier, but go look at the unofficial roadmap to dynamic server meshing. It has everything you want to know. But it's those are the two things, and I think because everybody thinks that it's going to take a lot longer than it's going to, because they're equating it to server meshing, they're equating it to PES, and it's like, no, this is a component service within server meshing, a prerequisite, just like
I was going to say, just like Legos, like people think that Star Citizen is a Lego brick. Like, oh, server meshing is just this Lego brick. You just insert it into the game and it's done. And it's like, no, that's like a series of 4 to 12 services all working in tandem and handing off information back and forth. And a lot of those services don't exist because they just don't exist. And so CIG has to come up with them from scratch. And sometimes
if you want to use the Lego analogy,
pull stuff out. So
you know how when you buy a Lego set now and like the different pieces come in separate bags?
Yeah.
For the whole is server meshing, or the whole is PES, but there's 6 different bags that you have to put together, with each instruction set in order to come together and make the whole. And that's kind of how the services work. But there's a lot more information about what each individual service does. But I don't think that it's going to take very long for them to prove out the separation of the replication layer in the testing channel. I think we're looking at a matter of weeks to maybe a month. The time that it takes us to go from CitizenCon to IAE will be how long it takes them to get out the replication layer separation, and then from IAE to the end of the year, which is essentially another month, from when when IAE starts to the end of when CIG takes their break. That's another month for them to work on crash recovery, get that through the testing channel, get it released into 322, and now we have crash recovery, we have separation of the replication layer in 322, and whatever else they get in that time over the holiday break. And it's been implemented in a better process than before. So hooray, Merry Christmas. We get a fairly decent holiday break patch with crash recovery and separation of the replication layer, which the separation of the replication layer is intended to increase server performance.
Mm-hmm.
Benoit said as much in the comments of that post. And part of the process of testing it is to make sure that they do get that that boost in server performance by removing the replication layer.
Okay, so when do you think 4.0 is going to come out? Do you think it's going to come out at the end of this year?
Nope. I think that they are targeting a Q1 for 4.0, and I think it's going to slip to April, and it's going to end up making it so the Invictus Launch Week patch is rushed, and Invictus Launch Week is going to be the same as it's always been. It's going to be a .x of 4.0, and everything, it's going to be broken. It's not going to be 3.18, 3.19 broken. It'll be broken, but it will be in a better place. But I think that because they're introducing these things in Q4 of this year instead of going full send like they did 3.18, which is not a good idea, I think that the rollout of 4.0 in Q1 will go more smoothly and take less time compared to we went from 3.18 Evo in December of last year to release in March. It was a total of like 3.5 months or whatever. And I think we're going to have that same time frame, but instead of PES and all its services, it's 4.0 after the other services, server meshing after the other services have been proved out. So it will give us more time to do the tiers of PTU, like they talked about, the stress testing that they wanted, that everybody complained about, but this is what it's for. Mm-hmm. It's for testing out 4.0 and server meshing in a better stratification process than we had for 3.18.
Okay.
Now,
go ahead.
Can I reply? Okay. So there's been a lot of talk in chat while he's
chat's
been
going nuts
describing server meshing. So there are 3 states of server meshing, 3 different versions of server meshing that they're going to be working on. Version 1 is static server meshing. CIG says you server own this, you server own this. Static. They don't move. They don't
to use an example.
What?
To use an example, a very clear example that people understand, Stanton is broken into Stanton 1 and Stanton 2, and then Stanton 3 and Stanton 4. And then the middle is the Aaron Halo, which is that ring that everyone likes to mine in. In this example, Stanton 1 and Stanton 2 would be its own server. Stanton 3 and Stanton 4 would be its own server. And that the break would be at the Aaron Halo. So when you crossed over the Aaron Halo boundary, you would be moving into the second server. So...
And they, in the first version, they don't touch, they don't take over each other's stuff. They can't.
No.
They only inhabit what are called their object containers, and that's how they're going to split up the world. With object containers. It can be a room and an outpost. It can be a planet. It can be an entire solar system. However they mark it up, they will not move. And they said they want to get 2 for the first version of server meshing, 2 for Stanton, 2 for Pyro. The next version, and that's when Pyro comes out, static server meshing. And that's when we get it. So before dynamic, that's one of the questions people had. It's before dynamic server meshing, while we're on still static. They said they want to move very quickly onto dynamic because it will save them lots of money in server costs. Dynamic 1 lets the server move where it's being used. So if 10 people are in all of Stanton, they can just say, okay, I'm over all of Stanton. But if there's 200 people in Stanton, it can decide, okay, well, you take those object containers, I'll take these object containers, so we can split up evenly the population between us. Dynamic 2 is a layer beyond being able to just take object containers and being able to take different parts of the simulation. Like, I'm going to handle this area's physics collision. You're going to handle that area's NPC walking. And so they'll be able to say, well, I can have 1,000 more NPCs because he's doing the collision, he's doing the players, and I'm just doing walking. I don't know what systems they're going to put on, be able to split off these different simulation islands, is what they called them. But that's the plan. The best I hope for that is a version a year. So next year we get server meshing static. Year after we get server meshing dynamic 1. Next year we get dynamic 2. Because I don't know how development of dynamic's going to go. And need to do that.
We don't know a lot of information about dynamic because they could have been working on some stuff in the background. They just don't talk about it a lot because it's so focused on static. And they may not know what the situation is like until they get dynamic out to be like, okay, how much do we need to work? Like how much do we need to split this off? So it's important to keep that in mind.
Yeah, and they will learn a lot between each of the posts, each of the publishing of this tech. Once they put out static, they'll say, okay, this is how the world's actually being broken up. This is how many servers we're probably going to need for per system. And I think we'll stay a bit longer on static before switching to dynamic, so that we can quickly get off dynamic in dynamic 2. Okay. Because if it just if the server just goes crazy and says, I'm going to spin up 1,000 servers, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money for CIG. But they also will start having regional shards because people can start filtering in and the server can just start subdividing itself.
They can have multiple servers the shards can be larger and they can have more servers per shard and stuff like that. Yeah.
So you can break it down to you'll have a server caring about each landing zone, and then another one for the rest of the planets, and then another one for the solar system. And you can have these even nested servers worrying about high density areas and low density areas. And the game's able to just decide that.
Yeah, and that's based off of trying to get as much population as possible into the game without sacrificing fidelity. Drink.
Yes.
But yeah, fidelity. Pardon. Drink. But and for practicality reasons, for people so people can kind of understand this, what all this means is if you want to broke it down to the very basic mumbo jump from the technical talk, it means that you have better server performance, you have more players per server, you have more stuff per server, so which means you have the ability to see more NPCs, to have more NPCs interacting with one another, be able to have better economy. Overall, it just means that the game gets bigger. So the more that from static to dynamic means more players per server, which means larger number of servers per shard, and being able to have more content per density in the game. But none of this stuff.
When they talk
go ahead.
I think the big quote is the reason they're building Rastar on the procedural locations tool is because they have said, and Paul's mentioned this many times, they have been very clear. They want to keep you within a planetary system and keep you busy within that area, so that going from planet to planet is a big deal. And they want you to have lots of content within a planetary area, because that's the going from planet to moon, is where a lot of you are going from, or staying within a planetary system is where you're going to be, avoiding handoffs. The majority of the time, they expect a single server to be handling the Crusader planetary system. And then if you go to a different planetary system, now you're transitioning from servers, one server to another, and you're doing that, in quantum, so it's less noticeable, versus if you were having to transition from server to server while doing FPS on the surface of Microtech. But that's why they want so many points of interest, so that way they can you'll be moving around in a given area, but not transitioning from server to server all that often. But they basically said that straight up in the last Rastar presentation. The most content density that we can afford, and then basically they say it's in reference to the servers. The server's limitation. Hey, buddy.
Yeah, and they want a couple hundred caves, and we have a couple dozen. And so after server meshing, the game space we have is going to get so much more dense.
I also just quickly say, because I know a lot of people say it's like, well, sounds complicated. None of this is new tech. All of this stuff has been done before in other games, and it's been in some cases as like long ago as the mid '90s. So in games. The issue is that a lot of people don't understand is that there is no such thing as an off-the-shelf solution to these sorts of things. Even though it's been done before, none of them work with Star Citizen's assets or locations, so they have to build them from scratch. And this is not a unique Star Citizen thing. Every games company has to do the same thing with all of their online solutions, which is difficult, expensive, and time-consuming, which is the reason why people who deal with online connectivity issues between video games are like unicorns. They're very difficult to find, and especially ones that are very experienced, because they can make pretty much whatever the fuck they want to if they're really good at it, because it's a blank check you can write for those sorts of situations. Because it's even the people I've talked to about it, they're like voodoo masters. Like, they just touch things and they make them work. I don't know how, but so. Yeah, go ahead, Des. I just wanted to
one
address that.
question that we hadn't covered is, somebody said, how does Quanta work into all this? Quanta, like like the entity graph, is a server behind the servers. And it runs its own simulation of millions of entities, of little data points that are moving things around and going to different places and doing different things. And what they're doing is then told to the entity graph. And that entity graph, through the replication layer, is told to all of us. And told to different game services that, like, will spawn pirates when there's a lot of pirate activity. Or haulers when we show up to a station and there's a lot of haulers around. So it is a background simulation where the real Star Citizen world, the economy and all the missions are generated and run in a 24/7 environment, and we just see into this Alice in Wonderland mirror of the persistent universe into that simulation.
Yeah. And there's a lot of different states. We don't have enough time to go into the differences between
you
quantum.
Said 4 hours, right?
Yeah, we don't have enough time to go into the difference between quantum and AI, virtual AI, and subsumption AI. Because like that, and there's an entire post that just like thing that Tony Z did about that whole thing with an example, which is like an hour long. So, but just know that
definitely going to see Tony Z at CitizenCon.
Yeah,
it is
we've
a
also
separate
done a video on.
Yeah, I know you have done that. You've just done an entire video on just the virtual AI, let alone like.
It was quantum, and virtual AI.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. But just easy to note is that, as you said, it's just a separate service. It's not the same thing as server meshing. It's a separate service to...
Yeah, it's its own service.
Yeah.
Put it aside.
It's actually in the game right now. That service is already existing and active. It's just for a very small portion of the game that no one pays attention to, which is quantum fuel, and repair. That's the only thing it covers.
And I think it's about to get bigger, specifically because what we talked about with the jump point stations, it's the economy team saying, we wanted this in there for haulers.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're going to... I think we're going to get a little tidbit from them at CitizenCon of how much more they're about to be taking on in the game.
We hope. We all hope for 321. Yes. So,
yes.
All right. So, I'm going to finish off with my own little thoughts just to make sure, just before we move on to the question and answers, which is Pyro is 4.0, right? Y'all agree on that one? I think CIG has already said that multiple times. They're like 4.0 and Pyro are the same thing. And there's no point in putting Pyro into the game until they can have server meshing, because server meshing is a technology that's vital for the game to exist. And Pyro is just another star system. A cool star system and an advanced star system compared to Stanton in terms of the stuff they want to add to it. But it's just a star system. We know that they can make a star system in a month. So the issue is less and less can they make this the planets, the systems, and more does the technology allow them to support the devs work that they need to do? Can they have servers that are healthy enough for them to add the new AI systems, to add more AI, larger battles, larger interactions, more complicated interactions, those sorts of things that I think a lot of players right now, myself included, seem to, when you start to see the edge cases, like after you've been playing Star Citizen for a few months, you start to see how limited the AI are, how limited the mission scope can be, the limited value of reputation.
This game can get real hard when server meshing starts pumping out stuff.
Yeah, because it'll like a lot of stuff, and I'll quote Gin and Tonic, who's a regular here, who's always says that everything significant is blocked by server meshing and PES. Now that PES is done, everything significant is blocked by server meshing, and he's right. Pretty much everything that you want to do, you need more space for. In order to free up that space, you need to turn Stanton from one server to 2 servers, which allows for more stuff, just the volume of stuff to be added, because the entity count can become high, which can cause server degradation, which can cause performance. So, like, there's a lot of other things that this beyond this, because, like, as I always say to people, 4.0 is not a magic bullet. It's not going to make all the problems go away. There will still be performance issues. There will still be other problems. But it will improve it in ways that will be more visible at the time than in the future. And then as things goes on, as they add actual fixes to the back end and actual performance optimizations, that's when you'll start to see a lot of those things.
I think the one thing we didn't say, and the one thing that requires repeating anytime you talk about 4.0, 4.0, for as far as we and CIG have said so far, unless they know something different that we'll learn about at CitizenCon, 4.0 and server meshing is the last big tech hurdle.
Mm-hmm.
After 4.0, the biggest thing stopping anything from getting in the game is artists and designers' time.
It's all Elliot. Since Elliot's in chat, it's all Elliot's fault. The only thing that's delaying Star Citizen's development is Elliot, single-handedly.
Oh wow, that's
Please send your written complaints to the address here.
So, like, as
Elliot,
people, as much as people are like, they've been saying the game's going to speed up for 9 years now. It has been speeding up. They've been getting new stuff done faster as we see it. The problem is they can't really let the devs just go at it because they need to be very strategic in what they're currently adding.
Mm-hmm.
And once server meshing gets hardened, once we get Dynamic 2, it's going to be devs, go.
Yeah, because there's no more tools they're waiting on. They're waiting on just themselves developing. And we've seen how quickly CIG can iterate and develop when they have the tools waiting for them. It's no longer like they have the toolbox. It's there. Now they just have to build the house. And they've been building the house with the tools they have now, but they're not done, and it's harder because they're missing significant portions of those tools. Once those
build
tools
the
are ready,
house and hire more people to build more houses after that.
Yes.
Heck, they said they're going to get there was a quote from, I think it was Aaron Roberts, that said Squadron 42 Episode 2 will be out 2 years after Squadron 42
That's the plan.
releases.
Yeah, that's because I'm going to put some context in that one. Aaron Roberts comes from the Lego games, so he did games before Legos, but he was one of him and his team that I think almost all of them, that from his team.
Other than the last 2,
Foundry.
I think.
Yeah, almost a lot of them were his team. So like you can think of it like how Call of Duty makes. They have like 3 different development studios that make Call of Duty, which is why they release a Call of Duty every year. They had something similar where they had like 2 or 3 studios making the Lego games, and they use the same engine, and they just kind of and drop them out so quickly. And the reason why they're able to do that was because they used the engine, they improved what they could, and then dropped out another one. But they used effectively the same game modified over time, so they got better slowly over time. They could experiment with things, but it's effectively the same information, so they didn't have to reinvent the wheel. And so once
I think 2 years is also like a good timeline.
Yeah. With not having to redo this, like the rendering shaders and all those other things. Like
I think 2 years for both of the next 2 episodes. So we get Squadron 42, assuming it comes out the end of next year, 25, 26. So 26, 27, we get the next episode. So end of 26, I guess it would be somewhere like that, depending on what games are coming out when, because that's always the question when you're putting out games. So 7, 8, so somewhere around 9 or 8 to 10, we get Squadron episode 3 to launch to can the whole trilogy. And I think they should wait 3 years, whether it's waiting or dev time, whatever, 3 years or more to release whatever their next story is. Don't be like 2 years, 2 years, 2 years, 2 years.
We're gonna take a quick break here for a moment, but I have a hot take, and I want y'all's opinion on this one. Okay. I think once they get done,
I want it now. Yesterday.
What my hot take is, I think once they get done with the trilogy idea that they have written and they have recorded, I think most of it, if not all of it, I would like for them to take their teams and make small mini games, 5-6 hour single player experiences with small teams of strike teams with ideas that they have. So like, take a writer, take a couple of designers and artists, and they'll be like, all right, this is the idea we want to come up with. And they come up with like a game that would cost like $10-15, and you just drop it, over the course of, you can call it like Squadron 42 or Star Citizen Tales from the Verse or whatever. And just little individual ideas and game styles so they can experiment and have fun with those ideas, because I think there's a lot of talent at CIG that would probably want to express themselves more, and they have a platform with an engine that's pretty powerful. So, and it's quick little games like that are great for revenue boosting. You don't have to do a ton of advertising. You already have built-in audience, and people will pick it up. So,
yeah, no, that's actually a really good idea. Like that,
single player DLC.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. They could do anything with it. They could do bandit stories. They could do drug stories. They could do history stories.
Yeah,
stories and do history stories.
they could do a game about you being do kind of an homage to Payday or to Red Dead Redemption or any game kind of styles that they want to in the Star Citizen universe.
They could pull in their serials into game.
Yeah. Like the serials? Like, what do you mean?
The
the serialized fictions. Yeah, like Cassandra's Tears, or all this sorts of little stories like that, and they could focus on things like farming, or bounty hunting, or piracy, or whatever.
I would love a little a mini game that's maybe 5 hours, and they condense literally Star Wars into it. You were a farming boy that was whisked away by an old man, and you end up on this heroic adventure, and you blow up some giant space station. It's just Star Wars done.
But I think that would also show it would be a good way of boosting kind of cool. It's a cool idea to boost more people getting interested and let them produce a ton of content shortly. But also a great way of CIG being hey, we're developing new talent, and some of those people could then go off and develop their own studios and their own games, and it's kind of as a hothouse, as a way of fostering development and ideas and people who want to express themselves in other ways, but are kind of locked to the certain job they're in right now with Star Citizen before they go off in their whatever Chris Roberts's cocaine brained out ideas about hold on, I got a story about a giant bear in space. Let's go from this,
Oh, the horror
the Etam bear.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I think that's an amazing idea, and I really actually hope they do that, because it will help literally everything. It will help cleanse the palate of the devs who we're sitting behind closed doors for 10 years building a game.
Yeah.
And it's just hey, we're going to put this out in 2 years. We have a mini game. And it will be several devs doing that. So you'll have this entire library of DLC real quick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it'd be a good idea, but I'm also not a developer, so I don't know how difficult that would be or how reasonable that would be. I just know I was inspired by the idea of game jams, for people who know what game jams are, which are just 6 months, maybe a year. You pump out sometimes game jams are
some
a
are
week.
done in a weekend.
Yeah.
I've been a part of those.
You this is what you have. Make a game in a week, and it's just whatever you want. And
it's just you use Unity, and your theme is Passage.
Yeah.
What do you got?
Exactly.
And you have 48 hours to make a game. That
but
was
with
interesting.
but with all their tools, they could do stuff like that within the engine. And it's a great way of training and stressing out the engine as well. If they
Yeah,
wanted to,
I think like you'd start with a jam,
Mhm.
and then you'd like say, okay, these are the 3 winners, and pick your dev teams and go. Build this idea out. Because anyone can submit ideas at that point, whether you're an engineer, a developer, or a designer, or a narrative person. Like you come together, you have like a jam, and you see what ideas people are liking. You pick a couple of winners, and you make little sprint teams out of them.
Yeah. All right.
As
Well,
long as my ideas first. And
what was I think that would actually. I think Six Platoon would be a perfect. A 6 Platoon game would be a perfect 6-hour experience, like a Call of Duty, quick, like you get some. You just grab all the animators and be like, go nuts, and seeing NPCs do random takedowns and.
Do you like drop pods? Did you like more ODST? Well, here we go.
Yeah, exactly.
I think. Yeah, I think
if you could climb into a nail as part of a single player experience in ODST style, like here you go, good luck, and there's just drop that Titanfall experience. It's just the prepare for Titanfall, just like.
They could also use them to start. They could also use them to do like little hey, you're a very successful other franchise, and you see our success and want to have some part of it. We're not going to put Master Chief in the PU. That's not going to happen. But we could put a picture of him in this little 6-hour game.
Yeah.
Like kind of like put little Easter eggs from all these other places.
Yeah.
And I think the Halo Reach, the looking over the battlefield as the two merge, kind of that shot needs to be somewhere in Star Citizen. And I don't think we're going to get in Squadron because a lot of their stuff is either space or proxy wars.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, so. and I also want to see CIG's take on Survive. Current objective, Survive.
I mean, it's kind of in Area Gunner now.
It's in, yeah, that's literally the last stage of Pirate Swarm. It says current objective, Survive. But or it says objective, Survive. But
I would love to just us. I would love actually a Arena Commander game and just drops you on a planet. Just you and your spacesuit, just go.
Yeah. All right. We're going to be back in a few minutes. We're going to use the restroom real quickly. But feel free to ask questions in chat, and we'll do our best to answer them. Thank you again. And this is again.
Skip over it because it was a stupid question.
Yeah, we'll just break. We'll be back. Don't go anywhere. All right. Be right back.
Stupid questions don't deserve answers. It's not my fault. It's not even your fault for asking the stupid question. They just don't deserve answers. I'm not being mean. It's just what happens. Like if somebody asks when do we think 4.0 is going to be out, we just covered that. So it's a stupid question. I'm just saying.
We don't have to call it stupid though. That's not nice.
An
Remember, Naz. And as always, be kind.
Using my words against me. How dare you?
Yes.
Any questions can lead to great answers. Yes, they can. However, we've covered it already.
Yeah, just be happy with what we have.
Be kind, rewind. Be kind. This economy. The kinder you are, the better the economy is. Huh? What was that? Actually, I gotta be right back. Get actual liquid.
Yes, we know we're hot mic'd, Fox. We know. Since Paul mentioned Titanfall, Titan suits when? Yeah, ooh, that's a good question. Crystal Ghost, Crazy Ghost Hunters, thank you for that $5. By the way, I will answer your question. So. Stupid question, Pyro soon. Oh, and Division. I saw your question. You're confused as to how can Pyro be in Q1 or Q2 and not be anytime soon? Because Q1 is March. It's currently September. That's let's see.
Yeah, soon is subjective.
That's half a year. That's half a year away. It's 6 months away. So
in the lifetime of Star Citizen, that is
yes,
soon.
nothing. Yeah, and that's soon. But into the average person, 6 months is a long fucking time. And if we're talking about Q2 release, then we're talking about 9 months away. So
Yeah, I don't expect the separation of the replication layer or crash recovery to take very long, considering they are just services.
Yeah.
They are very important services, but it's not like PES. PES took 3 months in PT, 3.5 months in PTU before launch, and could have stayed in longer, but that was a big new tech with nearly a dozen new services. Whereas we're just testing out one new service and then another new service, and then pretty much server meshing. I don't think we're going to see if there's something else between crash recovery and the separation of the replication layer. I don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure that's it.
It
there
is
could be
technically
one more service, or it could be something that they roll into 4.0.
That's true. It is technically 5 months because it is October. I keep forgetting it's October, but still 5 months is almost half a year. Like it seems like not a lot of time, but it's a long time from your average person. And if we're talking Q2, that's still 8 months away. It's almost the time it takes to make a baby. So. Wait for Naz to get back. I'll stop drinking agua so I don't pee myself. Where do babies come from in Star Citizen? Well, when a mommy loves a daddy very much, they have sex.
Buy some. they buy. Oh God.
Liberty Lake.
No, the dang goo that we 3D print people out of now.
The regen gel. Yeah.
Yeah, when a mommy and a daddy love each other very much, they go to Space Costco and buy regen gel and design their dream perfect child.
And then just 3D print them. Yeah. Would we be able to sneak into Tree's personal hangar and steal his aquarium? I mean, probably not. But if you could, I wouldn't want to steal his aquarium. He might go full. He might go full. What is it? John Wick and hunt you down to the end of the earth. So.
Yeah, just wait till we get our own deployable mines. Yeah, never steal from a loot goblin. Have you ever seen Hoarders? My personal hangar is not safe for you, I promise.
You're saying that's soon in terms of Star Citizen terms. I know it's terms of like your veteran Star Citizen backer, but I'm thinking more in terms of like, to bring back Mike. People like Mike who are like here for the game. 6 months is a long time. Like Cities Skylines 2 is coming out this month. My schedule is screwed. Like between that game and Star Citizen and finishing Starfield and the update to Dark Tide that I forgot existed until this week, getting more experience in Void Crew, freaking. What else is coming out? There's just too many things, y'all. There's just too many things.
Yeah, I am hyped for a lot of games for the next 6 months. And Star Citizen is just a percentage of that hype.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things I'm very excited to play. It's a great time to be interested in space games.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, too.
So, that's my point by saying it's not anytime soon. I think that's most of our perspectives when we say it's not anytime soon. It's like it's
when Space Engineers 2 comes out, you will not see me streaming Star Citizen. It's not gonna happen, and that's not like within the next 3 years. But like the second that comes out, sorry.
I've also been hearing the whispers that they're going to be doing a Warhammer 40K Total War game. And when I heard that, I died inside. I'm like, you GW just doesn't want me to like touch grass, do they? They just don't want me to like function. Oh. Yeah, and then of course Space Marine 2. But I don't think Space Marine 2 is coming out this year. I think it's actually coming out next year. So
and all of these games, CIG is gonna have to work around to release whatever version of whatever game they're on.
Oh, that was the other thing. I want a Deep Rock Galactic clone from Star Citizen.
Ooh.
Where you get shot into a mine and have to dig your way out and fight pyro crabs.
Pyro crabs, huh?
Yes.
Not cave spiders?
Or cave spiders. Crotch spiders and whip crabs and rantas and all those sorts of fun things.
Yeah.
All right.
Our citizens' children yearn for the mines.
I mean, the Mezzers certainly thought so.
Oh,
all right. Let's get started on the question answers.
Okay. I'm ready.
All right. So welcome back to the question and answer session. Let's get started with the first question. Again, we're here with Tree0311 and Nazeris, aka the Nova Forge. Check out Pathfinder's podcast is after this show. Are you going to be doing it live?
Yeah, we're 8
yeah.
Eastern.
Okay, so you like
because we got to eat.
okay, so 8 Eastern.
EST?
That's 10 minutes. That's 10 minutes from now.
No,
Or sorry,
10 Eastern.
8 Mountain, 10 Eastern.
8 Mountain. Okay, 10 Eastern.
He did that to me too.
It's so hard. Oh God, you like
Just
Central
use
Time,
local.
Eastern Time.
Use your own. Let people do the hard work and convert
Yes.
it.
I convert
tried
it.
doing like some other I'm gonna let's just do the Discord Universal thing that does it itself, and they still assume it's their timeline too, or your time zone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. So the first question is from Crazy Ghost Hunters, who gave me $5 on YouTube. So thank you for that. You didn't have to answer these questions, but that certainly helps. Having more systems like Pyro helps servers? ? Like you have a few people one system and a few at Pyro, and not crowding one system. I think
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Yes, but actually no.
I think that what he's trying to say is like that will having more systems like Pyro reduce the strain on servers. And yes, but that's not the idea. That's not the reason why. The reason why is
in static it will.
Yes. Yeah, but that's not even the full.
It will work because static is a broken system that we have to get to figure out how server meshing will work so that we can get to dynamic so that thing no longer happens.
Yeah, but it's not like we're going because like what happens in a situation like IAE when everyone's going onto one server specifically because that's where the IAE is happening. So there'll still be a server max, and you still have to have performance working well on that one server with max populations.
Yes.
Yeah, like we're not going to get to regional shards.
Yeah,
we got a ways to go, but you'll have shards that are like right now. A shard is a server, and soon we're going to have a shard is, one replication layer connecting to the entity graph and multiple servers, and that'll be a shard. You'll have, for example, 2 servers simulating Stanton, 2 simulating Pyro, and that'll be a shard. Yeah, essentially, and so on, and so I think what they're asking is how does adding another server make server performance go up? It's not adding or another system. It's not adding the other system. It's in the process of adding another system, we're going to subdivide the systems and give those subdivided zones. They're called entity zones to separate servers to simulate individually. And then if you move from one to the other, you'll have a seamless transition that you won't notice as if you're on one server like we have now. It's kind of like how they keep on saying, we're going to introduce this new thing and make sure it gets up to parity with how the game was in the previous patch. Yeah. Well, they're going to introduce server meshing with 4 separate servers simulating 2 star systems, and they're going to work on it to get it up to, make sure that it is performing as well as it did before. But in theory, by taking Stanton and cutting it in half, you should be able to have more people in the server and have better server performance, because each server is simulating less than it was before.
It's not the intent to improve performance, though. It's just by the nature of the design, it will by accident. Like how object container streaming did the same thing, where suddenly people saw massive improvements with static or client-side object container streaming. Suddenly people went from like 10 FPS to 40 FPS, and it was just like, what? It wasn't intended to do that. It just happened to do that. So,
and that even we haven't even like touched on at all of the matchmaking system.
Yeah.
Will the matchmaking system say nobody's in Stanton on this shard? We'll put them in here. What happens when there's too many people in the entire shard that are coming through the jump point in one direction? Do they skip shards to get into the other one? What do they do? We don't know yet. I don't know if they know yet.
Yeah.
So,
and someone just asked a quick one. It was like, will there be a higher player cap as a result for Pyro? There'll probably be a higher player cap in general, but I would almost guarantee that CIG is going to err on lower player cap if they can add more volume. So we might have the same amount of players we have now, which is like 100 to 200 people per server, but you'll have twice as many ships on screen or twice as many NPCs. So you go down to that bunker mission, and instead of having 7 people who are coming out in similar armor, you're going to have 15, 20, 50 NPCs charging at you with guns to make it more harder, more engaging, to do more stuff that makes it feel more alive. Instead of having a few people walking around in a landing zone, you'll see people like crowded like it's a New York City street or something like that. Like,
Yeah, I think they'll probably like double because right now the shard count is the player count. And I think, because it's, right now it's 100 and whatever it ends up being, because sometimes it'll go over that. And I think they could easily say, okay, we're going to increase the player count for a shard, a Stanton and Pyro shard, and increase that to 200 or whatever, double it effectively, because they're gambling on, okay, if there's going to be a rare occurrence that everybody in the one shard is going to go into one entity zone within Stanton, say for IAE or Invictus Launch Week. And when it does, it'll bog down a little bit, but we've separated the replication layer, so that gives us an additional performance boost. And so in that rare instance, performance will get bad. But for the majority of the time, we should have a better performance. Hopefully I hope they don't just immediately just shoot it up to 400. 4 servers, 400 people. I hope they're a little bit more cautious, but who knows?
Yeah,
I also
the second they put it in, everyone's a Pyro.
Yes, because that's what's going to happen. I do think also CIG will use the events as a way of experimenting with server meshing. So like instead of having 4, they'll have 5. So they'll just make the region around the whatever IAE is at be its own server. So now they can have higher volumes, just to kind of like play with the idea of using those volumetric areas, or those I guess they're still object containers, but those places that are unique entities into the game themselves, which hold other entities, their own servers, to be like, hey, does this work? And then suddenly you can have 400 people around Microtech, and it's like, oh, so now instead of having 400 people just in that, server 2 of Stanton, you now have 400 people in server 2 of Stanton and 400 people in Microtech, so. But that's, again, more of a long-term thing for CIG, and none of us know, not even CIG knows what the upper limits are. Like, they could have a client-side server object container streaming situation where, like, they flip it on and they're suddenly like, we can have 4,000 people in a server and it doesn't do any degradation. We don't know if that's possible or not. We just don't know where CIG is at right now.
Yeah, and eventually, I just want to put this out there as one of the pie-in-the-sky goals for Dynamic 2, is they want to build a rule set for subdividing these servers. I mean, this could happen in Dynamic 1 as well. That if you get 100 plus, 500 plus people on a single ship, the interior could become its own server.
Mm-hmm.
Not that it's a private server, but that you can simulate all the players on board. Obviously, you can't see all of them at the same time because your computer cannot render that. But that the server can deal with the people inside and outside differently, but interacting with each other.
Yeah, and then like that's we've people heard them talk about, and we've also kind of often said things like the interior of your ships could be its own server.
Yeah.
So
they talked about that a lot post 2017 CitizenCon, and then 2-3 years ago they said very specifically, we don't want to say you spawn in Javelin, you get your own server. They want to build a rule set that if you need a server for the amount of traffic on your Javelin, on your Idris, on your Bengal, on your station, whatever you have, then they'll spin up a server for you. We don't just want to say every Javelin spawn creates a new server. Then they can just dock CIG by spawning all the Javelins.
Yeah. And the other thing to keep in mind as well, as Naz and Tree have pointed out as well, is that dynamic is designed to be dynamic. So if there's only one person in Stanton in the entirety of your shard, they don't need to spin up more than one server. So they don't need to split it up into 2 servers. They can just keep it as one. But the second you start getting those higher numbers, that's when they start splitting up and start dynamically changing that. So that means that, in theory, once dynamic server meshing comes out, it'll be cheaper for CIG to run servers because they don't need as many servers as they would. You think they would only spin them up in the areas they need to, if they need to. So
yep. And eventually, the dynamic mesh will eventually like find this nice equilibrium to where it's not wasting space on empty space.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also not trying to crowd too many people into one server. What that equilibrium is, nobody knows. Nobody on Earth knows.
Yeah, it just they don't know the systems yet because they're still only building them right now, so they don't know the full.
We're gonna cross that burning bridge when we get there.
you mean we're gonna cross the burning bridge that the players set alight gleefully and then are strapping C4 to it as they laugh maniacally as CIG is desperately trying to figure out how to fix this bridge that they're about to explode. Because it's the one thing that the players are good at is we're very good at breaking everything CIG loves.
Yes.
They're like, we just spent 15 months working on this new system. We're going to release it and we're going to see how the players like it. And they just walk in with a baseball bat and smash it to pieces and be like, it sucks. Do it over again.
Rip hover mode.
Why can't we have nice things? We are the reason. All of us are the reason why we can't have nice things.
Yeah. Because CIG is almost the only game in town wanting to put out a good game, not a finished game.
Yeah. Yeah. And they don't put themselves into like time constraints usually. So
like I said, good game, not a finished game.
All right, so this is a question that was asked a couple times. Thank you for that five Great British pounds, Great Britain pounds. There, Jock Cop, who asks, do you believe the hints that CIG have dropped, meaning the people who own the F8C will be able to fly it after CitizenCon? I wouldn't mind personally, and that's actually another question that was asked by MentiFizz, who thoughts on the F8C email. So there's an email that was sent out that's saying that it was cryptic and something like something's going to be a blast, and it showed like a magic eye kind of thing was going on. And when you decrypted it, it showed a picture of an F8C and said F8C.
A picture of and the word, yeah.
Yeah.
And they said for the birthday, so 3 days from now.
So
here's the thing with that.
Uh-huh.
They promised that they wouldn't sell it.
Yes.
And this is something where I am very much in lockstep with Salty, and I think there's Salty Mike and a few other people that, you said it too. I just remember, Salty Mike got very salty about this on his stream. And this is another one of those things where I think this is a misstep by marketing and entirely unnecessary, because people have said, they're doing it because they need to make money because they're way behind 2020 or 2022. They're not hurting for money. I absolutely promise you, like, they are 8% off of 2022 sales right now. 8%.
Record. 2022 was record-breaking sales too.
So, and 2022 was 33% over 2021, which means that took in far more money than they ever planned on spending.
Yeah.
And
Now,
even with the acquisition merger of Turbulent, they are still way below their goals for growth that they set in 2020. Way behind. And we are at almost 30% revenue growth over 2021 at this point in 2023. We're like $18.5 million ahead of 2021 right now. Here in 2020, for the same point in 2023, where we are right now, we're $18.5 million ahead of where we were at this time in 2021, and we're only 8% back. It's like 6 or 7 million behind 2022. We don't have to beat 2022. There's no reason. CIG doesn't need that money. What they need to do is maintain the growth curve in order to achieve meet their growth goals. But that's why they still have like 50 positions open, because they have the money to hire those people and retain them. But they're just having trouble hiring them. But they have the money, and so there was no reason. I hope that they don't sell it. I hope that this is hey, it's ready now, and we're going to release it, so you guys can fly it. If they sell it, I'm gonna be upset, because it's not everybody's like. I think that the misnomers, people would be like, oh, well, they're going to break this promise, that they're nothing sacred. And it's like, no, that's not how that works. That's a bit biased as well. But I think it's one of those things where if they sell it, why? They don't need to. We're going into CitizenCon and IAE. They have plenty of money. We're doing just fine. Why break a promise to make a little bit of money, for no reason? It's, people are, like, I am one of those people. I'm at that point. I have an F8C. Sweet, I get to go fly it, but it's just a ship.
Yeah.
And so we'll see what happens. But I think that this is probably another marketing misstep.
So I since this is brought up with Jock Cop, and I think a lot of people said, I didn't think about that, was that they might just let us, the people who have it, fly it around. Because, as a nice little birthday, like, hey, it's ready for you all to do. Because it's been in the game for years now. The F8 has been available and flying around, and players have broken into F8s and flew them around.
Every Invictus launch week since 2021?
Yeah. So
or was it 20? I don't remember if it was there for 2020, but yeah.
It's like the F8 is in freaking Arena Commander now. It's so common. It's now just part of the base game. You can see them. Thank you, Elliot, by the way. Fun fact, all of those F8s are named after Elliot's pets, I believe. So all of the call signs of all of those F8s are all based off of Elliot's pets. So every time you let one of them die, you're literally letting a puppy get killed. So it's your fault.
Purple Yeti, I promise you, they don't need the money after the Turbulent acquisition. Their goal that they set in 2020 was by the end of 2023 to have 1,000 people at Manchester alone.
Yeah.
And now here we are approaching the end of 2023, and they're just over 1,100 for the entire company.
Yeah.
And if they
have like 50 positions unopened.
If
they're
they
fine.
needed money, there are things that sell better than an F8.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You could, the RSI Miner, the Orion, the Kraken, Idris, freaking, like, most big ships will oversell what they'll get on a heavy fighter.
Yeah. Yeah, especially since heavy fighters are already more expensive than you think. So,
but no one uses them because they're not in the meta.
Mm-hmm. But I will say, because I agree that I don't want them to sell it, because I think if they sell it, it's a missed opportunity for what Mike talks about a lot, and it's a philosophy that I've begun to adopt myself, which is CIG needs to start adding things for us to earn in game, because this is a video game, and unlocking things in video games makes monkey neuron activation and makes us go want to play more. And that's the hardest part about Star Citizen playing it consistently, is that when you can just pull out your credit card and swipe it and get the item, it loses all of its ambition and value. So having something you can earn in game is so much better.
Did this big Arena Commander rework. Let people earn the ability to buy the game, buy the ship in game by doing something in Arena Commander. And, if once you own the ship, then you can buy the paints.
Yeah.
And make money off the flipping paints. That's fine.
I think
it's a win-win for everybody.
I think
and-
you should
and-
mirror the online store with whatever's on it or not on it in the game.
Mhm.
That way, there's always the chance, and no one can scream foul on anything, that you can always just play the game.
Yeah.
A lot of people will still say, "Oh, cool camo, swipe."
Yeah. The option is okay. Like I just would rather it be in game, because that way people can be like, I paid $45 for this game and I got everything I wanted out of it. I don't have to pull out this. So to clear up some people, because some people just came in. No, they have not said they're going to be selling the F7 or the F8C, because all they've said is a cryptic message and then a stereogram that translated into the picture of the F8C and the word F8, the words F, or the letters F, the number 8, and the letter C underneath it. So
I think,
but I also kind of throw this in there. But it is true that this was the one that you were supposed to earn if you played Squadron 42 and you completed it. It was one that you would be able to purchase in game, if you've completed Squadron 42. That was the original plan.
and I'm going to take probably a different theory from you guys, or well, you guys both have, as I hope they don't do this. Maybe they do this. If it's specifically the one you're supposed to earn in game, and they're like, "Oh, the F8C, what does that mean?" If you just take what we know with like assume marketing, stay out of it. What it means is Squadron 42.
I was about to say.
So like, if you just
put the hat on, like.
I've been over there.
I got. This is my new Squadron hat. This is because it's a fighter pilot game. I'm gonna do this. All right. I can take my glasses off.
I think you need a bigger helmet, Paul.
No, it doesn't work with the glasses. So, listen, I'm not saying much. I'm just saying Squadron 42. Okay. But yeah,
Tree, you're the only one without a hat.
I don't have a hat anywhere near here. All my hats are downstairs.
how do you? Oh, I was gonna say, you probably say, how do you not have a hat and you're bald? My dad is balding and he can't go outside
closet
without
full.
burning his head like red like a tomato without a hat on. So
A tomato, you say? That's interesting.
all right, let's move on to the next question, because I think we got went through a lot of that stuff there. Aparki asks, what benefit is the replication layer as a 321 as of 3.21 to player experience? Is it actually going to be mostly unnoticeable and depend on other services down the road, or will it actually have some impact, be it performance or persistence or crash recovery only? Tree, I think you were talking about this pretty extensively.
Yeah, so Benoit specifically said that in terms of your experience, you shouldn't notice a difference. The goal is for us to not notice a difference. There should be a performance improvement here. I've actually got it like right here.
Yeah, it's like we said earlier, very much like server side or even object container streaming as a whole feature. Like, you're not supposed to notice. If everything goes well, you don't notice.
So this is something we're going to be talking about on Pathfinders this evening. But someone literally asked that question in Benoit's post. Asked if we're going to get any server performance, et cetera, and he says we are expecting performance gain on the game server, since the game server itself will no longer have to fan out messages to connected clients and manage the replication state itself. This is the replication layer's job. Running on Tech Preview, the Tech Preview, Jesus, with real player behaviors, will allow us to quantify this gain as well as identify areas of code that might prevent us from having a gain, which will need to be addressed before we graduate the replication layer separation for live. So there you have it. That's the goal.
I just wanted to this is my new conspiracy theory helmet, because it's the Empire. Get it? It's the Empire for it's the. So I'm just saying the Empire did nothing wrong. Okay.
Is that
we
actual,
all find your lack of faith
scale
disturbing.
of their helmets?
Yep.
That's a bulky helmet.
Oh yeah, they're pretty bulky.
Or Ezra has stolen another disguise.
Nice. Love the Ezra friends. I still haven't I don't have access to watch Ahsoka.
Ahsoka yet? Yeah.
and I really want to finish Andor. Like,
So
of all the things, I want to watch Andor because like it's quiet. It's in a different part of the. There are no flipping Jedi's as far as I know.
no.
I don't want anything to do with the Force. Just shut up and tell me a story within the universe.
So what you're saying overall, Tree, is that it will have some performance increases, but it may not be significantly like overwhelming. But it's just going to it might improve server performance, or at least not hurt it. So
Yeah, the goal is that there should be performance, and that they are going to use the testing channel to make sure that they do get that and optimize that separation in order to get the performance boost that is believed.
Okay, here's another question real quickly. Will Pyro come before 4.0, or is Pyro tied to 4.0? I think we've already got over that, so I'm not going to go into depth. They are tied together because 4.0 is a combination of server meshing, which is an important step for the game's development. It's an important technical milestone for them to get done. And Pyro is simply a demonstration of that technical milestone. It is the first patch for that whole thing. So, yeah. All right.
Unknown Guardian. Oh my God.
What did Unknown Guardian say? That new Star Wars Rebel helmet makes Paul look like an off-brand Jack Black. I am off-brand Jack Black. Thank you.
You ordered Jack Black off of Wish.
Yes, I am Wish.com Jack Black. That's who I am.
We have
Mom, can we have Jack Black?
home.
No, we have Jack Black at home.
I can't sing at all right? That man is much more talented than I ever be. So, all right. Northern Trooper asks, how are you feeling about the project at the beginning of the year compared to how do you feel with 3.21 in the PTU and CitizenCon being 2 weeks away? Naz.
An upside down bell curve. I
Okay,
was
see-
really like, I'm like, so we're gonna talk about Morph again, and I
Yeah.
actually came around completely, like, because Tomato and his infinite wisdom. I keep watching Tomato stuff, and he keeps hitting
should.
it out of the park. He said like he watched Morph's video, and he had the opposite reaction I did to it, which was, okay, he knows the game, and I should have listened to him. That this is not Star Citizen is gonna get bad. It's gonna get rough, but we need it to get rough, and we just need this stuff done. And Tomato said, okay, my expectations are tempered. We're going into this. I came into the year, he's probably wrong. There's so much is going to happen. We're going to have 4.0 by the end of the year. And so as the year went on, I kind of like got really upset at like how the project's going. But as we're going back into CitizenCon, my hopes and dreams are getting back up where they should, where I like them to be. And calling Morph the NFT guy is such an undersell of everything that he's ever done.
Yeah.
Including Star Atlas. Like, as much as
I'm-
we don't like to start about it. Like, they're at the hangar module.
I don't like to talk about Star Atlas because the leader of Star Atlas, the guy who's behind Star Atlas, has been proven that anytime he hears about like people discussing his game, he is not above using the shittiest YouTube takedown measures he could possibly use, because he did that to Eradicator. When Eradicator was basically like, hey, I fucking hate NFTs and crypto, but if you want to improve your reputation, here's what you do. Because like he's still like, it's Eradicator. Eradicator's not exactly politically correct when a lot of his commentary either, but like they had a spout, and then he copyright struck him. So I ever since then I'm like, I'm not going to talk about Star Atlas because I like my channel too much. I don't want to get copyright struck.
Sense. I'll talk about Star Atlas on my channel when I do stuff. So
what I'll say to the effect of is that like, say what you want. Star Atlas has hired a lot of talented artists, including several CIG developers, former CIG developers, which is, as Morphus said, is the reason why he decided to take work there, was because he wanted to work with those developers and got a little bit more of an idea of how they function and how things work. So it was an experience for him, and I would never shit on anyone for taking a job. Unless that job involved like genocide or some like human rights violations,
or actively scamming people.
Yeah,
if they were involved in trying to rip someone off, like sure, but like being the project it is not currently shown to be a scam. Like people cry on Star Citizen all the time. It's at the hangar module. Just let it be. Let it cook.
It's also a completely different philosophy and design development. They could have just taken the money and ran when the NFT market absolutely fucking bottomed out and imploded, but they haven't. They're still working on it, which tells me that they actually care to develop on it. So
at least a little bit, yeah.
At least a little bit. So
the intent is there.
Yeah, they have a hangar module in racing. So like,
yeah. All right, how about you there, Tree? How are you feeling for the beginning of this year versus right now? What's your evolution of Star Citizen's development?
I mean, if we're talking about the very beginning, I was very optimistic about PES, and then, well, cautiously optimistic. I'm in a weird boat because I missed a lot of the PES 318 into 319 hubbub because I was on active duty orders and I was away for several months, and so I got to watch it, and then I was crying on the inside for everybody else. But I would say, with the recent information, with the postmortem, with the post from CR and from Benoit, and all that sort of stuff, I am more optimistic now. Just because we're now coming out of the doldrums, the development doldrums, we're still in a kind of a content drought, but we're coming out of the information drought, and that's what's important to me. Is okay, now we have statements of intent, statements of plans, and they're not just, oh, here's what we want to have in the next year. Like, no, this is what we're doing right now, and this is what we're doing right now, and this is what we're going to be working on over the next several weeks to months. This is the plan going forward, and they have been very clear about what that is, not mincing words. And so I think that when it comes to the development of these additional services and server meshing, I think that the messaging is appropriate for people who read it. And so,
well, there's your problem right there.
Yeah, as a person who reads it, I am optimistic, and I feel good about it. I feel good about the messaging. I feel good about the information that we're getting, and I feel good about the pace of development. I hope that they go over this in detail better on screen, and for people to listen and see, for the people who have missed the reading part, because it's all been reading. All the good information we're getting, unless you follow certain content creators who follow the development well, you have missed it. Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say me and like Tomato, and there's a couple of us who do the whole read thing. So yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So and that's not ideal. That's not optimal. Because obviously, if you follow the Star Citizen community social media, you realize that there's a lot of people who are very likely going to be upset because they don't follow the development very closely, and thus are not managing their expectations appropriately, and are going to be disappointed because they thought something, and CIG's like, we never said that. And like, well, you hinted, and like, no, we didn't. We very clearly right here. And yeah. So I'm good. I'm all good. If you want to be good like me, come hang out and watch Pathfinders.
Yeah. And to be clear, since there's been discussion about Star Atlas in there, I am not a fan of Star Atlas. I'm not a fan of crypto and NFTs, but I'm also not somebody who's going to sit here and tell you what to do with your money. So just leave it at that. That's another reason why I don't want to talk about Star Atlas, because it's like talking about fantasy MMO number 700. Like it's just not my wheelhouse, not my bang. I'm not going to tell people what this is or isn't. I just don't care. So the only reason why I even got brought up was because Morph's NFT thing, and I was just like, whatever. Morph got paid. You got a job. I'm not going to shit on somebody for getting that bag, girl. So
I'm curious to see if he'll be able to do a video on the work that he did. I'd be
interested. I'd like to see some of that too. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. I will say my own thoughts was I came into this year probably slightly more optimistic than I am now. August was rough. August was real rough. But in my darkest time, this time being like, man, I just don't know how I feel about Star Citizen right now. Bethesda was just like, hey, buddy, here's Starfield 2 weeks early. And I'm like, okay, I feel much better now. I'm enjoying a game and I don't feel like I'm frustrated by it. And I still stand by it. I know a lot of people don't like Starfield, but I came in expecting what Starfield was and found out it's exactly what I thought it was. And it's even a little bit better. And I'm like, it's cool. It's got problems, like any Bethesda game does, but I am a beloved member of the cult of Todd. I've been following Bethesda games since Morrowind, and I probably will always play more Bethesda games as long as they're decent and not complete terrible. The only Bethesda game I haven't played that's been released in the last 20 years is 76, just because I played it the early release.
If I could get Barrett to stop shooting at the rampaging herds of space wildebeest, that would be great.
My favorite,
been to like 3 different planets now where it's like, oh yeah, these are tame, and he shoots at them, and then they come all stampeding towards me and trample me to death.
Yes,
like dude.
Vasco is a psychopathic murderer bot. That robot will kill anything that sniffs at him wrong. He's just dead. So like what I'm hearing is that Barrett and Vasco, who are totally married, we're not going to pretend they're not, are the exact same people. They just like murdering the hell out of things. They're built for each other.
Captain, you are being rescued. Do not resist.
Exactly. Vasco is just Chopper from Star Wars. That's all he is. No, you can't marry Vasco, sadly. I can't wait for that modification to come in though, for that mod, so you can marry the robot. So like right now I'm fairly optimistic. I'm still a little bit more pessimistic because the beginning of the year I was like, there's no way we're getting 4.0 at the end of this year. We might get like a PTU or like a Evocati for 4.0. But now, after all of the whole like backend databases on fire and CIG just unleashed some ancient cryptid upon their server architecture and was like, why isn't your containment facilities working? It's like, we didn't build them to handle Cthulhu. Chris Roberts, we're gonna have to kind of rework this and work with you on making sure it works.
Where did these Necrons come from?
This is not a tomb world, Chris. This is Mars. All right.
Okay. There's one last thing I'd like to say when you're done.
But I mean, like that's what I gathered from that whole aspect, which is like, I don't think we're going to see that soon. But that's it. It's like I think it's like, okay, I've shifted my expectations by 3 to 6 months. Based off of my original expectations. And I still, like, I didn't say this earlier, but I still don't, I think they're more optimistic. Both of y'all, actually no, because Naz, you said 4.0 by the end of next year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Q3 is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, that's me too. I'm around the same idea. I think what can shift will shift, and we'll get about Q3 next year. But, you know. All right, so go ahead. You were going to say something, Naz?
Yeah, so I just looked up to make sure I got the wording because I hadn't watched the video yet. And people are saying like Star Atlas stole devs from the Beta Merchantman. In the all-vehicle roundtable from Star Citizen 4 months ago, they said they were at a critical juncture with the Beta Merchantman. They had like 3 devs on it. And in Moore's video, he says specifically they hired a lot of people, including a number of ex-devs, not current devs. So don't apply malice where there could have been just hiring people.
Mm-hmm.
Like they may have said, we're going to stop the Merchantmen, and then the devs went elsewhere.
Wasn't it Paul Jones who was in charge of the Merchantman team as well? I want to say, who left for Ubisoft?
I don't know. I just remember like there was one and then the other happened. They do not correlate.
Yeah. Paul, and I think Paul, I would imagine the Paul Jones who left did not go to Star Atlas. He went to Ubisoft, which has made me get my own conspiracy theory of, hey, Ubisoft, what are you doing with a spaceship designer?
Aren't they doing Eclipse?
Eclipse?
Star Wars Eclipse?
Oh, is that? I thought they're doing Rebel or Outlaw.
Or is that
Star Wars.
Obsidian? Who's
That's
doing
Obsidian, I think.
Star Wars. I'm so happy. Thank you so much, Disney, for ripping the
EA Bandit off.
Yeah. It's the one
Quantic.
thing I wanted from Disney.
Yeah, Eclipse is Quantic.
Quantic, okay.
Outlaws is Ubisoft.
Okay.
I think so, and that he's not doing Outlaws. He's doing something else.
The designer of 1818 went to another Star Wars project somewhere. I forget which one that is. So there's another the developer that was going to make a Boba Fett game that turned into 1313. That was going to be this very sandboxy, you're the bad guy, kind of unleash your bounty hunting terrors on the world.
Force Unleashed meets bounty, Star Wars bounty hunter kind of thing.
Yeah, and then they're like, EA's like, we don't like that. You're fired. Just like, but.
Okay, so Jacob's saying that Paul Jones was involved in that and he left. And I know he definitely didn't leave for Star Atlas. He left for Ubisoft because he had to move to Canada and he'd never been to Canada before because he was talking about it on social media and stuff like that. Paul, if you're watching or if anyone has a chance to reach out to Paul, tell him I really hope he gets to make his UFO wherever he is to make his UFO.
Oh, the circular Argo. Yeah. I remember that.
And remember, the later a ship comes out, the better it will be. Like, for people who want a good Banu Merchantman, you want it to come out as late as possible. Especially after Resource Management comes in.
Yeah.
You do not want it soon.
All right, let's move on to the next because we still got a bunch more questions. I'm going to lock questions now because I want to make sure you'll have a chance to get to your...
Got an hour and a half to go.
Yeah. But we have a lot. We have 20 questions, and we had 18 when we started.
I'm just going to spend the first half of the podcast eating.
How many chapters is Squadron 42 supposed to have? 26 or 28? Yeah, 28. Now,
see, Tree said every time we go through the roadmap, Tree's like, these are the chapters, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, no, stay.
So there's some confusion. And I think this is something that I think has been brought up to Chris himself because Chris is, he's in Star Wars brain. So he said Squadron 42, the first game of Squadron 42 is going to be called Episode 1. And then everyone was like, so it's going to be Hitman, or Telltale Games where you're going to get little 1 hour segments every so often and then released it. And it was like, no, he's doing it like so then he changed it to Chapter 1, I think. And when he changed it to Chapter 1, it's like, but your games are chapters. So people were thinking that you're just going to release the first chapter of the game with Squadron 42, so it's only going to be like an hour. So no, there are three games in the Squadron 42 trilogy, which was originally 1, and they split it into 3. And the first game has 28 episodes, or 28 chapters. So 28,
now you're confusing episodes.
Yeah, well, they're 28 levels, and they're not really levels. They're 28 story arcs because each level can have multiple or single or multiple side missions as well. So some of them are longer and some of them are shorter, but like. The vertical slice we saw was an example of a side mission which took about an hour. So
and that was only half of what they had to do.
Yes, that was half of that mission. So
because there's a shot somewhere of that officer being somewhere on the Idris, and that would have been the social aspect of that mission.
Yes,
and it's just like these missions are big, very very big.
Yeah. CIG, I don't want to go into too much because I know a lot about Squadron by accident, so I don't want to spoil other people, but the generic gist of how the design aspects of Squadron 42 is that they're built to be replayable in many different ways with many different approaches, so that they have these highly replayable situations with different arcs, because it's a Chris Roberts game, he loves his branching storylines, so there'll definitely be replayability, but the way that a mission is set up is this is the objective. Go. Sometimes there are the miniature objectives in it, like we saw in the vertical slice, We have to go find Dooley, or not Dooley, my brain. Same concept, but Trejo, Agent Trejo. Yeah. You go find SAIC Trejo, and then you go find her ship, and you find a little bit of information. It's like, oh, she's down to this planet. And then when you get down to the planet, you have a choice of like, sneaking in, running in, gunning, and all that sort of thing. So there's like different approaches to each objective.
And that entire thing can be completely skipped. You could because old man asks you, like, hey, should we go looking for her? And you can be like, nah, we got a patrol to finish. And
not my problem. Like we got other things. Not my monkeys, not my circus. All right,
I can imagine that like every choice you make like that will come back to haunt you. Yeah, something will happen later on, like, oh, she's dead. She died over here, and Mark Hamill's character will hate your guts.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There'll be consequences for your decisions, which is what Chris Roberts likes to do.
Yeah, because you can like tell in the lines they chose for them, like the Mark Hamill's character really knows Trejo, like they've been working together a while. So like if she ends up dead because of your like, let's head back to the ship.
Yeah. Since Paul mentioned Titanfall, Titan suits when? Thoughts? Tree?
Soon TM.
What do you think? You're muted.
Sorry, the kid ran upstairs and was squealing at me, and I had to pee. Titan suits in players' hands or seeing them?
I think that's a good question. Both. When you think when seeing them and when player hands?
Players' hands, 2025 at the earliest. Getting stomped by one or aliens whacked by one. 2024, depending on how quickly you get through the Squadron 42 campaign.
Yeah, almost certainly it's in Squadron. Like there's no almost no ifs, ands, or buts. Like the way that CIG has crafted Titan suits and the fact that they keep showing up in the Squadron 42 monthly reports means that, and not in Star Citizen, means that it's being made for Squadron. So,
and this is one thing that we can do the apples to apples Star Citizen Starfield. Like Starfield's like they used to use these amazing war machines to do stuff. Let me drive it.
Yeah, CIG is like, do you want to commit a war crime with a walking with a mechanical Vanduul? Here's your keys, kid.
I can't. Okay, so CIG, I don't know if it's been said before. I don't know if this has been brought up anywhere, but size 1 tractor beams on a ship on your mech suit.
Yeah, I mean,
I want to drive around a giant, just tractor beam mech suit.
That's the kind of what they've been implied in game, is that they were originally heavy machinery for construction and loading, and that a bunch of
over ships.
Well, the thing is that like the first mention of the first combat mech or combat Titan suit is from Virgil Ltd. And I always like to point out that Virgil Ltd. Is formed by Virgil refugees. So it's like when the Vanduul pissed off people so bad that their like 4th generation descendants are still holding a grudge and building a giant mechanical suit to try to stomp your guts out. Like Jesus Christ, do not fuck with anybody who's from Virgil. Like they will hold a grudge 17. They're basically the dwarves of Star Citizen. Like they've got a list, and if you end up on it, your descendants will fucking hate you for
two main archetypes of Star Citizen's lore. Dystopia and grudges. Like almost all of the squadrons. There's even like a specific squadron that's like known for the holding a grudge.
Yeah, the Ravens, the crows, the 2 and 4 crows. Yeah,
it's like they're known for just beating the crap out of Vanduul because they beat them once.
Yes. Looking up Virgil history lesson, it's on Virgil. I did an entire video on the on Virgil Ltd. The Virgil company LD.
Was it a video or was it a short?
It's a video. It's a video. I also did a short on them, I think, but the video talks about like how they were key to developing. I want to say the name is the Atlas, which is even worse. It's like CIG. No, stop it. Oh, God.
They named their latest software literally just after one of their moons.
Yeah. CeeLo, right? Or
Selen? Isn't it
Selen? Is it Selen? Yeah. It's like, God,
come on!
All right. When do you think we're going to see Titans? Naz?
I just defer to Tree for this one. I don't
Okay.
like he doesn't keep track of squadron chapters. I don't keep track of the Titan suit. Like I want to see it as an industrial like mover, but like it comes in when it comes in.
Okay. Roland Dwarf asks, will there be a higher player cap with Pyro? I think we already answered that question,
Yeah.
which is possibly, but it depends on a lot of other factors. So
Lawyer's favorite answer. It depends.
it depends. Yeah. Much like Star Citizen backers, now backers from 2012, who are now entering their retirement age. It depends.
Oh,
Some of you just got that. All right. Do you think we'll see a server player count? Okay, it's a couple of similar questions. Isn't the replication layer required for the connections of jump gates to bring in Pyro? Yes and no. Tree has already answered this like 4 times by now.
Yeah.
But the answer is
server meshing is, and we need replication for server meshing.
for server meshing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's they're connected. It's their steps, but they're not the
Or
same.
if you want your stuff on the other side of the jump point, yeah.
Yeah. There's a question here that I saw. A bunch of people said that it was lagging for some reason. I didn't see it on my end lagging, but thought I saw a question asked in here. All right, while I'm looking for that, I'll answer the next question, which is, what do you guys think will be the next big gameplay feature/loop after tractor beams? Refining, hacking? What do you think, Tree?
Oh,
Glad I don't have to go first.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's different between, bounty hunting is a loop, and tractor beams are a feature that are included in lots of different loops. So I guess I think the next feature that we'll probably get would be, I think it's probably a toss-up between hacking or like incapacitation, and like stunning, being able to stun people. And because I think that they've been pushing hard on bounty hunting, I think we're going to get a demo of that, and I think we're going to see Bounty Hunter V2. I think Bounty Hunter V2 is going to be the feature, the loop that launches with 4.0. The sort of like key or keynote feature that goes with 4.0. A new bounty hunting ship and Bounty Hunter V2, and tracking bounties between star systems and transporting them back from Pyro to Stanton. I think that's the goal. But I also think that there's a good chance with the progression of Squadron 42 that we see hacking tier 0 implemented in the game. So as a feature, I think that's the next big feature. Because I don't want to count cargo, because cargo is just it's already being worked on. We already have the cargo refactor. We're getting tractor beams, so it's not like hey, this wasn't in and now we're getting it. It's we're getting pieces as we go. And I don't think that refining is in production at all right now, for example.
Okay. What do you think, Naz?
I just had it. Resource management and engineering gameplay.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. I think resource management is probably up there. Bounty hunting, because like we already have it, but it's going to get an overhaul.
Yeah, that's the reason I didn't choose that. Like cargo, but that's we have cargo.
Yeah,
Salvage, but we have salvage.
We'll get more. We'll get those more fleshed out after this next one. But I couldn't tell you when.
Yeah, they're
but
working on.
There's definitely in there.
Yeah, they're working on everything on cargo grid and the freight elevators. They're working on vehicle munching. They're working. I mean,
it's got a new name, by the way.
Does it?
Yeah, they said in the monthly report they called something new. It's like,
oh, okay. I have not finished the monthly report
it's
yet.
It's more professional. It's no longer sounds like they're like they're pleasing a woman.
Oh.
It's structural something.
Yeah. Structural
yeah.
salvage. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, structural salvage. It's just like naming Twitter to X. No one's going to call it that.
God.
We're gonna munch the shit out of those vehicles, and that's it.
You mean munching? Yeah, exactly, Northern Trooper. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think we're still a ways away from hacking because we haven't seen or refining, just because neither of those are really been mentioned a lot in the monthly reports. And
I think refining gameplay is done. They said like it was on the roadmap and there was work done on it, and then nothing.
Yeah.
Oh, I think they're at the design phase for that.
Yeah,
that's it.
I think,
but it's also not a big hurdle either.
Yeah. No. It's also not a big need. Like, you don't really need hacking. Hacking is not one of those fundamental gameplay aspects that requires everything. It will add depth to the universe, but it won't. It's not something that's like, other than the Legionnaire, it's just required. So
yeah, Tier 0 hacking is the equivalent of hand salvage. Yeah, that it's that level of gameplay. But to me, that's something, I'm not really a hacker or anything like that. I just, I like that aspect of the gameplay, the world. It makes it feel more alive. If there are doors that are locked that you can't access and now you can open them, if there's boxes you can open.
We had that conversation.
But that's all that Tier 0 is opening doors and opening boxes. That's it. I don't think Tier 0 is going to include ship hacking, hacking ship systems. Yeah.
All right, next question comes from Northern Trooper, who asks, the sneak peeks of the Storm are at the levels of Loreville 2.0 on We Get It. The sneak peeks of the Storm are the levels of Loreville 2.0s on We Get It already. What other deliverables do you see, would you like to see in the sneak peek? I mean, the reason why we see those is because they're done. CIG is, like, when they're not working on it, or if it's not in a place that's pretty pictures they can show, they're not going to do it. So
that little meme of the little like toddler in the suit when he's going like this?
Yeah.
I want that right now. That's me, but the two-handed tractor beam, the industrial.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We've gone over that on the Pathfinders before. I've gone over the two-handed tools as well as the features, like cutting tier 2. I think we're going to see cutting tier 2 at CitizenCon. But like when I did my big boarding actions video, which go watch it. It didn't get the views that it should have. Cursey people. But that's one of the things that I really focused on was that the cutting tier 2 and two-handed. Like, I love the two-handed tools. I love the whole idea of them. And so I want to see that, a sneak peek image of somebody salvaging with the two-handed salvage tool, and it's got the the backpack hose. I want to see that. I want to see somebody two-handed salvaging at the because I talked about the new salvage yard locations, which but I want to see somebody using that at the salvage yard location to hull scrape, or repairing for the new repair missions. I want to see someone using that tool, with the RMC going in and out of the backpack, via the Ghostbuster hose. Or I want to see cutting tier 2 with the two-handed thing. I want to see moving big, a 4 or 8 SCU crate with the two-handed tractor beam. That's what I want to see in the sneak peek, especially for vehicle tractor beams coming up. It's like, if we get vehicle tractor beams, but not the two-handed one, I'm going to riot. That's another thing I'm going to riot and fling poo about.
It seems so weird to do that, though. Like, why would you do one and not the other? Like,
that's why I'm going to riot. You had a riot on account of me, my very own riot, and
yes. I'm of the opinion
I write about.
I honestly forget that sneak peeks are a thing. I never look at the sneak peeks because I
always do, and it's always like, we knew that.
When someone comes up, it's like, hey, have you seen this? I'm like, it looks neat. Like, Volt weapons. Cool. But like
locked behind the squadron door. I hate it.
Yeah, as someone said, like, oh, I have Volt weapons in game. I'm like, no, you don't. You have
No.
you have the whatever the extremely Russian
Lightning
sounding
bolt.
name. Yeah, the lightning.
Yeah, the lightning bolt Uberef, and I got I got the names confused, and I was like, oh yeah, no, Volt is cool. Lightning bolt, meh.
Yeah.
Lightning
Yeah.
bolt looks like something out of Fallout. And
Yes.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
All right. What do you think, Naz? What would you like to see in deliverables and sneak peek?
Honestly, anything they've talked about on ISC.
Okay.
So like anything that's not done from ISC. So if we've seen the storm, it's done. We know it's done. Stop showing us the storm now. We have UGFs that are going through gray box exterior. They're for however we know they might be gray box complete interior. So, and then we have
Something that's actually a sneak peek.
yeah.
Yeah,
Like the
ooh, what is that? We
the
don't
new
know.
dashboard
No, we know exactly
for
what
the
it is.
Santucky Eye showing up before they did a sprint report. That would have been a sneak peek.
I'm going to say something that's going to sound, for those who are fellow Warhammer fans who collect the minis and stuff like that and follow it closely, is going to sound like blasphemy. It's going to sound like heresy, I should say. But the one thing that GW does really good that CIG could learn from is they do weekly sneak peeks where they make a post, which is just like a small section of a model. Like it's all black and white, and it's just a very small section. And people will go crazy about those sorts of things. If they did something like that, where it's not just in the email, it's like a social media post of just like one small part of a ship to get us to kind of like figure out what it is, because they've done that before in the sneak peeks. I think a lot more people
do that on
care.
Twitter. They do the observer test.
Yeah, similar to the observer test. Yeah. So I don't say many good things about GW, but I'll say that they do well at that. Their social media team is actually pretty good. So
Salty Mike in chat.
Hi, Mike. We were talking about you earlier. We were saying people should watch you more. Yeah.
Yep. Singing praises.
So, next question comes from Unknown Guardian, who said, "How bad do you think 4.0 Pyro will work at the beginning of scale of 1 to 10? 10 being flawless and 1 being unplayable. 2 would be constant crashes."
That's
so
exactly why we're doing the testing channel, though.
Yeah, I don't think 4.0 will be the same level of clusterfuck that 318 is. It'll just be a different kind of a clusterfuck. Less disruptive, but still frustrating. Because if they have the crash handler, or the new crash, stuff, 30Ks won't really be an issue by that point. Or they'll be so few and far between, you maybe barely notice. But I still think you will have weird situations where like your hair doesn't transfer over between servers. So you're running around with no hair, or like your head is missing, or you're going around, your Moby-Glass just disappears when you cross those server boundaries. Like all of your gear is gone, and then you log back out and log back in, and suddenly the gear just reappears because the entity, the replication layer is like, oh right, that's supposed to be in your ship. There'll be weird stuff like that, but
I think, like all the updates seem to go, like CIG says, we're gonna leave this in testing for as long as it takes, and we'll have it super ready to come out in a super legit state. What time is it? Oh, push it out now.
Yeah. What time is it? It's release o'clock. We got to do. We ain't putting this right before for IAE. All right, we got other things to do.
Like delay 4.0 and delay server meshing on the testing channel. Like, no, it needs time. It's patch time again. We just passed time. Push it now. Yeah.
I think people are just really, really traumatized from the clusterfuck that was 318.
It wasn't that bad.
It depends, and that's the problem. Was and I think again, now that Mike's in chat, he might be able to confirm or deny this. I don't remember if it was Mike or Morph who said that 318 was worse than 3.0 in the fact that it wasn't consistent. and there was at least a game you could play in 3.18. Like 3.0, we all had a good time with the crashes and the shitty performance and like the timers and stuff like that. But it was a new experience. It was new things, but there was nothing really there. We couldn't even buy ships. It was just fly around and see cool shit. But like 3.18 was a game. And it wasn't consistent. It was like Russian roulette Star Citizen edition, where you just spun that chamber and you may or may not get into that game that day, and it might completely screw over your entire experience. But it was so random that it didn't matter. Like there was no like consistent pattern with it, and some people just couldn't play 3.18 or 3.19 because of that. So
okay, so I'll quantify what I mean by not that bad. Then and I'm gonna say everyone's favorite line. It's an alpha.
Yeah.
And it was a great time in a great point in the game where it's like, go play something else. It was like, yes, and Starfield was still months away.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a good, like, hey, they're going to put stuff in. They're going to do stuff that's... No, and that's like, what I keep saying for balance is like, there is no balance. That's not where they're at yet. And so they're going to keep putting stuff in. They're going to keep testing stuff. They're going to keep doing things that's going to screw up the game in whatever direction. Like when Master Modes goes live.
That's going to be a clusterfuck.
The entire thing.
That's going to be screeching.
I think even with all the bugs and things, like playing the game, trying to play the game was bad.
Yeah.
But trying to like stabbing at see if you could log in and doing whatever, it was a whole new experience if you got in. But it was also like, oh, I don't get in today. I have so much time now. I know people want to play Star Citizen, and Star Citizen is a game to a lot of other people. But like it is their time, and they're getting to the end of the road where they don't have a lot of time left to do these disruptive things.
Yeah.
They need to do them. And sure, they could have some think they could have done better with PES launching. The problem was the reason they reformatted the entire PTU, how they launch it, and why 321 went straight to live is they need concurrency, and they're never getting the amount of concurrency they need when they actually need it. So they're like, oh, this will like jump by 10x when you hit to live. They hit to live, and it was 20x the amount of people they were testing with.
Yeah.
So they just couldn't find the limit when it was testing, and that's not something that you can prepare for. They tried, and they were woefully unprepared.
Which is why they built got that new software to help them test at scale a little bit better, yes. the simulation stuff. So,
but even then, they have to like assume, what are we going to test for? Like, how many people are we going to test it? Are we just going to keep adding until it breaks? Are we going to assume our current concurrency? Because every time there's a patch launch, the concurrency goes up magically for a couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a really hard guessing game on where to put that concurrency.
So to ask that question for you, for me, I will say it will probably be a 5, maybe a 4. Like
I would do 3 or 4.
Yeah. What do you think in terms of like 1 being garbage, like unplayable, and 10 being perfect? Tree, what do you think?
Oh,
wait,
are we?
I'm sorry,
for 4.0?
Yeah, like what kind of state do you think it's going to launch in?
If 3.18 was a 3, maybe, because I mean, a lot of people had issues, but if 3.18 was a 3 and like 3.0 was a 2 to 1, I'm gonna put 4.0 at like a 5 or a 6. Yeah, probably 6. I think 6, just because of they learned a lot of lessons. They plainly told us what those are and what they're doing to implement it, and we're going through that process at the end of this year with the integrating pieces rather than throw the whole thing in there all at once. And I think that's a really good strategy. Is it going to mean flawless execution? No. Should you ever expect flawless execution from CIG during this alpha phase? Absolutely not. But I think it's going to be a marked improvement. And the only people who are going to really get pissed off about it are the people who weren't here and didn't remember and haven't followed the information.
For the love of God, don't bring your friends in with 4.0. Holy shit! Like No, maybe a 4.0.1 or 4.1. You know, like Jesus Christ, do not do the thing and be like, well, this is a brand new patch. I can get my friends. Like, no, slow down. I think if anything, let's taught a lot of people some expectations, how to set expectations a little bit better, because it's not like people weren't also.
Oh, yeah. I'm gonna make that. I'm gonna make that meme. The guy who turns and looks at the girl, and the buddy's like, no, hold on.
Yeah,
that's gonna be
4.0. I do think that
less services. Somebody said less tech than 318. Less services.
Services, yeah.
Like there's a lot of everything you saw in the last 3 years Pyro demos is in 4.0.
Yeah.
So all the new like missions and sneaking and social aspects. We also don't know what kind of bigger tech underground facilities, buildings, interiors, engineering. We don't know what one's hitting 4.0 or not.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the Pyro's gonna have lots of bugs and things that are jank and everything like that. But when it comes to the back end and the servers and everything, the number of points of failure with 4.0, and especially with the way that they are implementing server meshing now with this plan going forward, it should be a lot less than with 318. And that's how I've set my expectations.
All right. We got 12 questions.
They're still there. They
Yes.
haven't gone away completely. They're still there. There's still some. Yeah.
So, okay, some quick questions. Do you think CIG will make Star Citizen a subscription model game? We have to pay a subscription.
Absolutely not.
No. That's not even.
I did a big old podcast on the future funding model. Go watch it on my YouTube channel.
It's just like industry wise, the subscription model is dead unless it's a very niche kind of market. There's only a handful of subscription model MMOs.
Yeah, people who want to do persistent funding do more like. So you have two ways of doing it: battle passes and a constant drip of DLC. So Space Engineers and Destiny do constant drip of DLC, and Fortnite and a lot of live servicey games do battle pass subscription like that. But that's all extra stuff.
It's not required to play it.
Yeah. But DLC people do content with their things that otherwise would be locked off.
I could see them transforming the current subscriber system to being kind of like a battle pass-esque server like they can
cool.
They could add in some.
It'll be a mixed funding model, but you won't need to pay a subscription to play the game.
No.
Yeah, I think that'd be like really cool if like you had your subscriber subscription, so you got set to the vault and things, but they said, hey, these rewards are up this month, and you have to like work through whatever they say, like maybe like this much time in these AC game modes and like this much cargo or whatever. Like put the game systems onto the battle pass. Like you have to move this much cargo. Tag they made bounties kind of thing.
Yeah. All right.
Make your subs play the game.
Sentuk Yai at SitCon or later because it's not
IAE
because it's still in gray box. It's at the end of it's the end of final art. It's at the end of final art.
Yeah, it's in final art.
They'll just hold it to Alien Week.
Yeah. Alien Week. You think it's gonna be held for another? Hey, they did it for the whole sea. I wouldn't be surprised.
Like I honestly would not be surprised if they did, because like Apoa at IAE with Jax McCleary be like, this is the new Apoa Santoki Eye.
Yeah, they can still do that.
It's like
I can see it. Well, remember, Jax is stuck in Pyro right now, so
any ships that come out, they show on the Galactic Gear show. So like a Santoki Eye in Pyro.
That's a good question. I don't know if we see that. All right, so I think everything else is a little bit longer, so I'll go through them a little bit more. Oh, have you been to the jump points yet? And what are your first impressions with the clouds and lighting? I have. It looks pretty. It's very good. It's definitely an evolution of CIG's design.
Magnus or bust.
I love seeing my home finally named in the game being Terra. It is by far the prettiest cloud in the space. The Pyro one is exactly what we saw in the demo.
Yes.
In 2019. I haven't been to the Magnus one. It's kind of like dirt looking, so like that fits.
Just like the
It's
salt of the earth it
rust
is.
dust.
Yes. I do like the fact, like, I was trying to explain this in my own, like, in office hours a little bit, which is like there's going to be the scientific reason for these things to have it, and then there's going to be the artistic reason. And each jump point having its own artistic identity in terms of its design or its lighting is very important, so that way you can tell where you are.
I hope that the each jump point has a theme, or at least there's like a merging between themes for different star systems. You like get like whispers of that theme from the other side of the jump point.
So
because I think
I like that
Pyro would
idea.
do well at that.
I'm also
say go ahead.
The infrastructure around the Terra one does kind of look cluttered. I feel like they could have streamlined it a little bit. It looks a little bit too disorganized for me. The stations are great. I like the stations. It's the infrastructure leading up to the jump point. You know, I think that the Terra one, it's like there's a lot of these pieces. It
might get involved, so we're not going to see Terra for a while. So once they have the artistic connection, the artistic like idea behind what Terra's going to look like, because I know a lot of people are like, well, Terra's been worked on for a long time. Anything you saw that's being worked on Terra is probably going to get reworked in some or if not straight up trashed. Just because
and we also don't have the final form of stations.
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
Stations are going to continue. That's why they're modules, so they can like, this is what a cargo deck looks like. We don't like that idea anymore. Let's throw that out. We need more spindles.
Yeah, they could do a lot of stuff. I hope that they should start to go for some more personalized elements for some of the landing zones, being able to develop some more personalized stuff just for the interiors, if not the like a little bit of the interior stuff, the touches, to make it feel like, oh,
this is a high tech interior soon on stations. Like, it's bad.
So
bigger rooms.
There's another question I think that's connected to that. Which is, once Pyro goes live, how frequently do you imagine the rollout of additional solar systems will be? As fast as they can make it.
Once a year till Dynamic 2, and then the second it's done, it's in.
What really slows down any development is just more how quickly could they make the landing zones, and how quickly can they make the planets, and how quickly can they make the missions. And that's the reason. And that's the reason why Elliot and the missions team are constantly like modularizing the missions, because they want to be able to slap them down, connect things together, and have it done in a weekend kind of thing, because that makes it a lot faster. So,
and even between now and, let's say, Nyx coming out, because we're pretty sure Nyx is next, they're going to be hiring. They're hiring like gangbusters. They want to get a team, basically. They want to have several teams, and each of them will leapfrog each other. So we have like 3 planet teams, 3 landing zone teams, and they'll all be working and leapfrogging so that we can get, eventually we'll get to the point where we're releasing several star systems a year, because there's 100 of them, and we're not going to spend the next 99 years waiting for star systems.
Yeah, you also got to remember.
Shameless plug, but
go ahead.
Nazeris and I did a giant podcast segment called The Road to 100 Star Systems, where we talk about the tools that CIG has developed in order to just make the systems and the POI within them. And that, because that's the bulk of what's in the system. The missions are the missions, the factions, that's different work entirely. But when it comes to the planets, the spacescaping, which is like the gas clouds, nebula, asteroid fields, the space stations themselves, as well as asteroid facilities, underground facilities, the cities and outposts, using Rastar and such. We talked about all those and where they are, what the state of them is. And people have to remember that Stanton is 1/8 of the known landing zones in the game.
Yes,
we have 1/8 of all the landing zones in just Stanton. And that at least that are known. Oh, Celine just raided with a party of 60. Thanks for the raids.
Welcome, Celine.
Welcome, Celine.
That was going to be my point, though, which is like there's you do not underestimate how empty the Star Citizen universe is. There's a lot of dead systems or just empty systems. That doesn't mean they're empty in terms of content. It's just the hard part, which is landing zones. Is
landing zones is the hardest part, and everything else is being built to be able to be made with the procedural tools.
And I think it will get to a point where a star system is less important than a update to the underground facility rooms, where we say, hey, we just got a new batch of rooms done for the stations, the underground facilities, and that will be a much bigger, like, hey, we have more variety now, instead of another system, another system, another system.
Yeah, like there's gonna be systems that just have some space stations and asteroid facilities and planetary POI, but no major landing zone. Yeah, it like this is what the star map's for, and this is what the Galactopedia is for, and
you're gonna have a lot of cookie cutter stuff. There's the UGFs are gonna look like UGFs are gonna look like UGFs. They'll eventually probably do some slight modifications and some changes and some like logo changes and maybe some design idea
branding
changes.
And overlays.
But that's about it. You're gonna have a couple of different versions of outposts, and you're gonna see them everywhere, and you're just going to know the different styles.
This is a blue rock. This is a green rock. This is a red rock. This is a dark rock. This is a light rock.
Oh, and caves. Caves is on the procedural locations tool as well.
Yeah.
And it's just adding different archetypes to each tool to make the locations look differently. It's structurally, as far as the game engine is concerned, the same, but the overlays on them to create different archetypes is what makes them look different. So yeah.
And the other thing to remember is that like a lot of those times it's like, well, I know a lot of people might be like, well, that sounds odd. It's like, we build modular homes today everywhere. Most McMansions are modular. They're just the same frame done 5 or 6 times in a neighborhood, not to mention mobile homes, not to mention that the entire International Space Station is just made out of the same modules, expanded and contracted. There's some unique stuff, but like it's mostly the same. Like that's how infrastructure works. They're the same. Palletization, bitch. You could palletize an entire
containerization.
Yeah, when you can containerize an entire outpost and just assemble it on situ, you do it because it's a lot cheaper than getting a renowned architect to build you a mansion. So, But someone asked, like, well, what's the point of all of these systematic modular tools if it's going to be one a year? Without the systematic and modular tools, it wouldn't be one a year. It would take a lot longer. That's the point of those tools.
It'll get down to more than one a year. It'll get down to more than one a quarter. It's just the differentiation will be: are you working on Terra or are you working on Min?
Astra or Min? Yeah.
Each system is weighted differently based off how much is in it and how much work has to go into it.
Are you working on OSO, or are you working on like Spider? Like there's a completely different aesthetic and like size requirements, stuff like that. So
once you understand how the procedural tools are being developed, you can go back. This is why I like reading the Galactopedia updates, because you can look at how they describe each star system as they're updating it and talking about it, and you can see, okay, they're going to use these tools in order to populate this system, with asteroid facilities and space stations, or mining, focused UGFs and or manufacturing focused ones, and they ain't subtle.
All right, we got a couple more that I want to get through, and I get some food, and I got other things I have to do. So, how many vehicle teams does CIG have? As how many vehicles can be worked on at the same time once that's all that's left?
3?
They have 3, 4.
Well,
US, EU, Montreal.
No, there's
the EU vehicle content team, and then there's the US vehicle content team, then there's the Montreal vehicle content team. But within those teams, the US content team is larger than the Montreal one, which they're growing that one. The UK team is the largest one by far, but they're adding more teams within it. And so each, the overarching team has like multiple teams in it, and they talked about it in, I think it was the Invictus Launch Week all vehicle roundtable, they talked about how not only did they spin up Montreal, they also, which is essentially one team. A team is like 4 or 5 devs or something like that. But they're hiring to build like an additional 2 teams in the UK, in order to, increase production.
Yeah, there was, like I said, 3 or 4 devs on the Bane and Merchantman at the end. That was definitely not the entire team.
No.
They were on other stuff. You can, and if you look, go to a progress tracker and pull up one of those teams and see how many concurrent bars there are at one time.
Yeah.
Or actually go on the Shiny tracker because it'll actually show you when they're working.
Well, and the other thing to talk about with a lot of those is that it really depends on the ship. Like, for instance, one of the reasons why a lot of the ships that are not in development are not in development right now has to do with 2 factors. 1, they're large. 2, they have no gameplay for them. So there's just no reason to produce them. Like, there's no real reason to make I think it's the Orion, which is the large miner, because there's just not a lot. There's no processing in game yet, and until there's processing,
which it does on board.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, processing or refining, like they don't have the refining in the game yet, so there's no point in putting it in there. It's the reason why they didn't do the Vulture until they had like whole salvage, because they could just do that. So. If you're wondering like where these folks are, if you look in the description, if you're on YouTube, it has links to their channels, both of their channels there. So as well. So yeah, it really depends on a lot of other factors rather than just the size. But
diaper joke again.
The diaper joke. I always make those jokes. Where was that? Okay. Steve the Dancer asks, when 3.211 comes out with ship tractor beams, do you think all ships with tractor beams will get that functionality, or just the C1 and the SRV? Also, will all ships with utility slots get tractor beams too? No, only I think there's a lot of ships that are already modeled with tractor beams. Like, it's like the 315P.
They said in a couple.
They said in the monthly report
that they checked them all. They're good.
Yeah.
Not all of them. So that was a thing.
The ones on the list are good, is what I mean.
No.
Yeah, that I want to say it was like the May monthly report, but I did a sit rep on it like a month or so ago, and and I did pester Jake about it, and Jake said he's like, I'm not sure if it's all of them. Don't quote me, but he said it's definitely most of them. I'm not sure if it's all of them. So
anyway.
Yeah,
well,
but I mean, he caveated. He did, and because he wasn't sure, and that's fine.
And then
Sorry, they weren't sure.
Yeah.
The
other thing to think is like there are some things like I don't think the Caterpillar has its tractor beams modeled in, even though it has.
Caterpillar was in the list.
Was it on the list? Okay,
and so, the omissions from the list that had me a little bit concerned are oddly enough the Taurus, and oh gosh,
was it the Nomad? That wasn't on the list?
No, they said the Nomad. It was
the 315's on that list, so I know that.
Yeah, 315 was on that list too. The whole C, the Caterpillar, the Cutlass Black.
The C1?
I think so. I'm pretty sure that's part of the reason the C1, besides its development, but I would assume that, it's getting that during its development.
Yeah.
I'd have to go back and look, but it's definitely the majority of them.
There's honestly not that many ships with tractor beams. Like other than the SRV, which is just a tractor beam.
The Taurus and the Raft. And I think the Raft is omitted because you still can't physically remove the crates still spawn in to the rack thing, but they don't have the animations in there for them to be removed. And so I don't think that they can be physically removed. And thus utilize the tractor beam that's on the Raft. Yeah. I think those are the 2 big ones of them, or the 2 that were omitted that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I believe that you could remove the like in the 3. Recently you could, but it was causing weird issues. Like you would pull a 16 SCU cargo crate out of a 32 SCU cargo crate from it. Mm-hmm. So yeah. All right. We got the next one. All right. Lady Space Patrol asks, do you personally need to have what do you personally need to have come in the game before end of year to keep your spirits up about the project? I think I think Tree's answer is hand tractor beams. Gun tractor beams.
I'll be despondent. You won't see me streaming at all. I'll just be. I don't get my two-handed tractor beam. Yeah.
I don't know. Freaking data heist missions.
You want
That's
that
the one
before
thing I
the end
want.
of the year?
Yes. I don't think it's gonna happen, but I'd love to see it. I would keep if they got in before the end of the year. I don't
want to see them.
high.
I don't want to see anything from the mission team ever.
God damn! Oh Jesus! You just took Elliot to the back of the wood chipper and just threw him inside head first, didn't you?
I am so done. I am so done with. We're gonna put in this facsimile of an entire thing that like is just we bought it on Wish. We're gonna put hacking,
it. I love
Payday.
I love Payday Star Citizen Edition. I want to see that. I love the heist mission idea. I'm a big fan of Payday, so I love the idea of doing Payday but in Star Citizen. So
no. Hacking was the last straw. I'm done with like the mission content team jumping the gun on features we don't have and then putting in this terrible version of it.
So what's the thing you need?
3.21.
Okay. All right.
So I realized this one thing. The thing that
Elliot,
keeps
are you
me
still
in Star
listening?
Citizen.
He's probably
What
asleep.
happened to
It's
the
like
mining
4
missions?
o'clock in the morning.
Oh darn.
Yeah, we got the salvage missions, but not the mining missions. What happened?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
They just don't care about
the resource rush,
anyway,
right?
I'm here for the development of Star Citizen, unlike other people that have reasons to be here. The second they stop adding stuff, I will probably get disinterested in Star Citizen.
Oh, Mike said that mining needed help from other teams. Okay. It's just like the cargo thing. Like the cargo was waiting. Like they wanted to add the cargo missions in, but all of the different various missions weren't ready because they just couldn't reach to the level that they wanted to.
Right.
So
Meme of the little dude in the suit again. Where's that help for the other teams so we get the mining missions in? Like it's basically the same as the salvage missions, but with mining. And mining's got a lot of love, but I think the hey, go mine this for us is.
I think the only missions
low hanging fruit
from the mission team is the ones that are held up specifically for other teams. Like salvage missions need the salvage team, the cargo missions need the cargo team, and basically they're actually using the parts of the game that they touch, not just we're gonna do hacking. Where's hacking? We don't know. They're putting a hacking thing. These immaterial missions, and yes, I know that they're working on tech for it, but like.
I always thought of that as a heist mission more than it was I think everyone saw data and thought it was going to be hacking, and I saw heist and was like, oh, it's a heist. It's a heist mission. I want more heist missions.
I like the tech that's going into it. I do not like the framework of the mission.
Okay. I disagree. That's what I'll just say for that one. Akuma Tensakuro asks, is 3.21 actually testing the replication layer or merely introducing a feedback and tracking tool set that will test the tech in the future, starting first with the replication layer? 3.210 proper will not have the replication layer split off. It's 3.21.1.
Yes.
That's what it is.
We don't know when it's going to come in. They're going to start the testing channel in concurrent with 3.21 before 3.21.1. And whenever they're done with the testing of the replication layer split, they will then merge it back in. Until then, the testing channel will stay parity with whatever live is.
Sorry, I'm going to say something that's very inappropriate.
Ooh, I'm intrigued.
All right, fine. I'm not going to do that. I'll just say the joke because it's like 3 hours in. It's like stop with it. He said relic heists. It's like stop. I can only be so erect. All right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like please. Like are you telling me that I can do National Treasure but Star Citizen? We're gonna steal the founding charter of the UNE.
I've modified my answer. I need a large relic, some sort of ancient statue that I need a two-handed tractor beam to steal. That's what I need.
Oh, secretly Nick Cage.
This is a kid's show. Yes.
Isn't he everyone?
He is everyone.
He is the reality.
Please,
Mr. Smith.
please have Nick Cage in Star Citizen. If we have relic heist missions, I want him to be the collector version.
He's the dean of the Mars University.
Mast, I think it's called. Funny enough.
That's funny.
It's funny because of what it is in Starfield. I think it's the same thing. It's Mast. Mars Academy of Science and Technology. Yeah, that's it. It's Mast. I want him to be like the collector from Guardians of the Galaxy, where he sends you out on missions. He's like, I need to find this relic. Just let Nick Cage. Just let him cook, CIG.
Yeah.
And he would be the perfect person. Just to be like, I need it, you know?
I need this relic, and I'm going to be like a Rocket Raccoon. I want that guy's
leg.
every time you show up, he's in a different costume.
Yes, exactly. He just has various costume changes throughout it. All right. And I see a lot of people like, this is just hopium and copium. It's like, no, it's not. We have relics in game. We just need a mission to actually to go steal them. That's it.
Yeah. Yep. It's actually quite easy to find.
All right. Next question comes from Steve That Answer, who asks, what Squadron 42 features do you think Star Citizen will hold from CIG will hold from Star Citizen until Squadron 42 is finished and released to the public? None.
Titans.
Yeah.
That's not a feature, though.
Gun.
Those are, you know.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything that those
like
specifically
core
hold.
features, if it's a core feature,
it's a matter of time, not, hey, best case scenario, Squadron 42 releases October 2024. Okay, in the year between now and then, they don't have enough devs and time to get in all the things. Not holding it back because they want to, but just holding it back because it takes time to implement those things, and they're also bringing in server meshing and a new star system, and there's only so much QA.
Yeah. I don't know how to say it any better than that. Next question comes from Northern Trooper, who asks, do you think CIG will continue their way of communicating the game development with Squadron 42 updates once Squadron 42 Part 1 comes out? So like the first game of the Squadron 42 trilogy. What about after Squadron 42 Part 3 comes out?
I think they're going to let the first game talk for the second game.
Yeah.
And do very, very little except like the marketing dues.
Well, I mean, the other thing you got to understand is that marketing and like anything in the world changes. So like what works and what doesn't changes from game to game, from year to year, from sometimes day to day. And how you do that and how you approach that is going to be different. So
I think they will afford themselves way much quieter marketing for the second game. Like they're going to talk about this assuming we're in the last year of Squadron 42's development, they will start talking about Squadron a lot more to get hyped, to get Squadron 42 Episode 1 out the door. But after Episode 1's out the door, that's the hype for the second game.
Yeah.
They don't need to talk about the development or spoil anything for the second game.
It really depends on a lot of other factors and what CIG wants to do and how they want to market it.
Yeah,
they could go crazy.
I think the Squadron 42 monthly reports get a lot thinner for Episode 2 and Episode 3 just because they're not having to rebuild all these featers that they've built. Like that's the whole
and
point.
A lot of the art assets.
Yeah, it's like
it's going to be the same thing. The narrative team did a thing. The design team laid out a level. The social team laid out some lines. Like
we might get more detailed stuff from the design teams and stuff like that.
That'd be nice.
Because when we start reaching those levels, we're really dealing with like a designer kind of game rather than having to build it from scratch. So,
yep.
All right. Mike asked a quick question. I came in late, but thoughts on the selling commodities owned by party members in the latest patch?
I think it's amazing.
I like that idea. I want that.
You can't do saddlebags, but you can do salvage. So you can transfer cargo boxes and then have someone else sell it. But you can't pull the saddlebags off of a mining ship and go sell that.
I haven't tried it yet. I'm looking forward to seeing the implementation, and because I need to read more about how it works. Because, like, do you go sell it and it goes into the pocket of the person who owned it, or are you selling it? You get the credits, and then you have to be the honest person and give them the money.
Yeah.
Okay,
they're just not labeling party goods as stolen.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's kind of part of the evolution of player authority and trespassing.
Mm-hmm. No, I think it's great, especially like it gives us more options to be more efficient
and more multi-crew.
Yeah, and more multi-crew, and just extend it to the miners. The sooner they can get that in for the mining bags, the better.
Is it bad that the first time you said extend it to the miners, my first thought is, yes, let them kids earn some money, all right?
Yeah, put them to work.
They yearn for the mines. Let the miners mine.
Yeah. Rent has gotten expensive, so we need to, Listen, kid. It's about time you pulled your weight around here.
I like the idea.
Keys to the SRG.
Anytime CIG can expand gameplay to do more things with what they have, I'm like, I like it. Give me more things, which is the reason why when they put relics in the game, my first thought was make them valuable so people will look for them and sell them. Like, these are nice. Just a little bit more. Just a little bit. Just imagine a little bit of more code here and there. Like, nothing crazy. You already have them in game. Just work with it. Even if it's something you're going to have to completely, change later. It's like, it's fine. It's just adding it to your current list a little bit. All right, next question comes. Oh yeah,
but it's museum.
Oh, I like that idea.
And we have to. The relics are hidden, like they're not hidden. They're in a like indestructible case, and you have to do the data heist hacking gameplay, get the computers doing the thing in order to hack the case and get it open. In order to get it, and you're having to protect the relic while it's doing its thing, and then you have to make your way out of it and then bring it back to a location, And I'll fail the mission every time because I'll keep it for myself. But
how many more we got?
3 more, and we're done. Does the replication layer in 3.21x mean that you will always have to return to the same server you crashed your Pisces on, asking for a friend? Basically, if you crash your Pisces into the ground, would you have to return back to that replication layer? Or that server, because of the replication layer.
The goal with the replication layer in this implementation is, it should do what we do already, but do it so that way, and we're not going to get it into a crash recovery, but make it so that way you, oh gosh, how do I explain it? It's building towards the whole, if server crashes, you don't lose everything.
You're not crashing the desktop. You're just crashing. You just hick, and then you come back up. So.
Well, and like because the replication layer is off the server, if server crashes, the information that was in the replication layer doesn't crash with it.
Yeah,
it's separate now. So when server spins back up, it should be able to. Now, that's a good question though, because we don't know. We could use an update on the login flow.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's something, because if server crashes and they're going to spin up new server from replication layer, that's, hey, this is where we were before, we're essentially loading back in. You'll need the login flow to tell you that that's where you go, and you should. It tries to do that right now, but I don't know if we're at that next evolution of the login flow where it will do that and be like, hey, your new server spinning up with everything as it was. Your wait is estimated 15-20 seconds, or 1 minute. Do you want to wait? Okay. And yeah,
you're talking about the replication layer. What I was talking about was replication layer plus the crash handler or whatever, the new thing that'll prevent you from launching entirely. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with crash recovery, you shouldn't even be disconnected.
Yeah.
I think. I have to go back and read it. But the replication layer should be able to, if server crashes, then the persistence information on that server doesn't die with it.
To give you an idea, we don't know exactly how this will work, but if you say crashed your ship into the ground and it's a smoldering wreck, and your client or the server crashes, if you come back to a different shard but the same area, because you'll come back to the same area anyways, because it'll say where you were. I don't know if your ship will remain there, but if it's tied to you, it might. And I think that's the kind of edge cases they have to look at to see. I think initially probably not. You probably won't be on the same.
When the ship explodes, if you watch the radar, it does go white, which means you lose ownership.
Yeah. So you might crash and you come back up and your ship is gone because you're in a completely different shard. If you or you can wait to get back into your shard and get back to all of your wonderful bits and pieces that you can pick up and use for Star Citizen Survival Edition. But so, all right. Last question is from Akuma Tensei Kuro, who asks, once we have highly fleshed out medical gameplay, so Tree, this is for you. What do you think CIG might be willing to create an anti-addiction missions where players help rescue NPCs and then help them detox from things like Widow and start into a sobriety path? What do you think about this as a concept? Yeah. I mean...
Sure, why not? I mean, they've already in lore have talked about like almost like plague-like events or outbreaks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, essentially public health crises. And I mean, what's the public health crisis right now is the opioid epidemic. Mm-hmm. Fentanyl and carfentanil, all that. I could totally see, this station is riddled with of addicts from a shipment of Widow that's 10 times or 100 times more potent, and you just run around and start detoxing them, but you don't want to detox them too much because then they have issues and that. So I've done 2 segments on medical gameplay, and I really want to do a dedicated video on it. But basically, the way they are building medical gameplay is really smart because it's gamifying pharmacokinetics, which is something that I teach to critical care paramedics and critical care nurses. And so that's why I love it, because it's like, oh, we're going to gamify and oversimplify pharmacokinetics and turn it into something that is approachable to everybody. Because it's just essentially mining, and you are doing different things in order to get bar in green, and monkey brain, good. That's all that it is. That's my job. Is I push buttons on certain pieces of machines in order to make do the medical equivalent in real life of get number into green zone, and that's all that it is. And so with the way that they're building it and a modular mission system, they could easily do something like that. Because it's just at that point it's almost just narrative writing it in differently and changing the names of different variables within a modular mission. Instead of going to rescue somebody who's got a broken leg, you're going to rescue somebody who overdosed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's I 100%, like, one of my favorite aspects of Star Trek, which a lot of people forget, is that there are 2 things, or I should say 3 things that they're always doing in a Star Trek The Next Generation series. Like they're either 1, delivering colonists to a new colony or to a original colony. 2, dealing with a medical crisis of some kind, so some sort of like natural disaster, plague outbreak, or some sort
insert
of other
planet name flu.
Yeah, so sort of thing. Or scanning areas maps that are out of date or need to be updated for specific nebula or stellar phenomena. They're always doing those 3 things. Watch the first 3 seasons of Next Generation, and you will see those 3.
I've fallen and I can't get up, and then you come in with a vehicle with a 2-handed tractor beam, and you get the person up and put them back into bed.
Put them back in the bed. But my point is
There'll
that
also be like illegal versions where you just like you're sent to just go make them respawn. It's like, hey, this guy's ODing. You just gonna whack him with a bat so he wakes up in the medical bed.
he's
He'll be addicted, but he won't be ODing. Next way.
That's actually the last question though. So people are like, I'm tired. It's like, yeah, I gotta do some other stuff as well. But they gotta get
half an hour, less than half an hour before we go live.
So thank you to Tree and Naz for hanging out with us. As always, when Naz and Tree come on, it's a long time. It's a good time and a long time. But thank you for hanging out.
Thanks for having us.
We do this every Saturday, so make sure you check this out at twitch.tv/TheAstroPub, youtube.com/TheAstroPub if you want to watch this live. And I'll do a quick plug. Tomorrow, so when this is, by tomorrow, I'm going to be doing a bit of a streamathon to try to help kind of raise some funds for the trip to CitizenCon. So I'll be streaming from bright and early, about 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific, till at least 8 hours, up to 18 hours. So if you want to come win some prizes and watch me play a lot of Star Citizen and raid relics and stuff like that, so you can come join us. So
yeah, let's do some relic hunting.
But until then, thank you for hanging out with us. Make sure you go check out. It's going to be on Twitch, right? Is it going to be under your Twitch Tree, or is it Naz?
Link is in chat. We'll be going live in about 20 minutes or so.
So
and
go check it out.
The roadmap roundup, Alpha 321, and the post from Benoit. All about the replication layer.
I'm going to raid into you, so you people can hang out there. Just go hang out and talk for 20 minutes. But thank you for hanging out, and thank you for watching. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.